about where we picked up from last week?
What? Oh. What? Can you turn the lights down?
No. Everyone makes really loud noises.
No, I thought the show was finished. Go to bed, Carly. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
How's your head?
Oh, goodness. Oh. Did you hit me last?
Would you like me to read the comments from your debauchery? Do you want to know what you got up to last night?
What did you do to me? Wow.
I did to you. Mate, this one's all on you.
Hang on. Are we streaming again?
We are.
Why are we streaming? Have we just finished the show? Oh, God, the lights. No, not the lights. Oh, that's too much.
You did. Do you want to know what you did? Do you want me to recount your night?
Not really. Not really. No. Not ideally. Not. No.
Yeah, the audience has it all recorded. It's already going viral everywhere. There was a rant about women.
Oh, that would have gone well. I'm sure that would not have been controversial at all.
Women were to blame for everything. So well done. You've only pissed off half of the world's population.
Well, that's an improvement on normal. I'll take that.
Yep. So, yeah. Are we going to take the Stevie Wonders off or?
No, probably not. No, I think we're good. We're good. I think this is my new look, Carly. It's my new look.
I didn't know you were dealing speed on the side, mate. Time was that tough.
All right, time to quit playing games. Look, last week was fun. I enjoyed last week. I didn't enjoy Tuesday quite as much, I will admit.
Were you hungover?
It hurt me. Yeah, I'm not as young as I used to be.
You did,
but I mean,
yes.
It was only a day and a half of hangover, and I have had worse. So a day and a half of hangover, not bad. I will say I am still suffering the hangover though, because I mean, if you look at the amount of calories in a bottle of whiskey, that's a lot of calories. And my weight loss for the week, for some strange reason, who knows why, didn't lose a lot of weight that week. Weird,
right? Did you get the munchies the day after? Are you one of those people that when you're hungover, you need all the munchies to soak it up?
Look, I was actually pretty good. I drank a lot, obviously, on Australia Day, and then I went and visited a friend on Saturday out at his property, and we had a couple of beers together then. Besides that, I was actually pretty good on the diet. Besides just 2 massive carb-heavy blowouts, that's all. No biggie. So I ended up not losing any weight last week, but I suspect also there's the natural variation of how much have you had to drink and how hot was it? Did you sweat during, blah, blah, blah. So there's a bit of that going on. So I think
all I hear is you just trying to twist it a little bit to make it not seem as much your fault.
Listen, if you give me a hard time, I will not wear undies in my scale photograph next week. Okay. And then you'll be sorry. Okay. I normally reserve that for I normally reserve that for my OnlyFans, but I'll give it to you.
Just quietly, I've been saving some videos for you to react to. I now have quite a little assortment there. And as I said to you, because I've been watching this stuff, the algorithm is rewarding me with more of it. And I have stumbled upon niches and kinks that I couldn't have under a bottle of whiskey myself come up with. These are fascinating things. Did you know that you can be
want to know?
Yeah. We're going down this. If I have to do this research for you, you need to be prepared. So we're all going to learn something. Are you aware of pony play?
I'm aware of My Little Pony and the Pony Club, but I don't think that's what you're talking about.
You can be an actual pony and you can buy hooves and a full mask and walk around and this is you're actually a pony. Cognitively you're a pony and you have your hooves, right. And then you like can hook a carriage up to yourself and wheel someone around. I'm not making this shit up, man. And then adult diapers. You think this is reserved for the incontinent geriatrics? Oh no, you can be a 30-year-old man and wear adult diapers because you enjoy being a baby in your 30s.
Yeah. So the issue here isn't that there are people who are mentally ill. We've always had that. Trump has obviously decided that we went the wrong direction when we got rid of the asylums. We're going to build the insane asylums again. To be honest with you, I kind of see his point. I am very much a civil libertarian. We need to be very careful the conditions under which we lock people up. But yeah, there kind of is a point where you just go, you know what? You go and join all those people in there and have your fun.
We just see that, but I didn't see much fallout from that. I wonder if all the the ICE stuff has sort of taken that away from everyone, because that I would have thought that would have had all of the lefties absolutely up in arms, because that would literally affect them all.
Well, here's the funny thing. In Trump's America right now, they've just seen record falls in most types of crime. The murder rate, which is, barring rape, like rape and murder, those are the two big ones, right? When it comes to personal crime, violent crime, the murder rate is the lowest it's been since they started making records in the 1900s. Like, as in, sorry, not in the 1900s, in the year 1900, they began keeping records. And obviously it's tracked as a ratio per population, per unit of population. The lowest on record in 126 years of records. Yeah, and it's from I think it was about a 33% drop or something from the year before. Ice overdoses or fentanyl overdoses and so forth have dropped precipitously in the same amount of time. Breaking and entering and car theft and carjacking, all of them are down in really, really meaningful ways. The only ones that didn't move so much are the sort of the intimate partner crime, your domestic violence sort of stuff. They didn't move nearly as much. But all of your forms of crime that are committed on a stranger dropped massively.
I'd be curious. Sorry, go.
I was just going to say, so I don't think they're in a position to tell him that he's wrong on anything to do with kind of law and order. And the insane asylum argument is a law and order based argument. It's a public safety based argument. And I don't think the Democrats want to pick that fight with him right now, because the numbers are just so strongly on his side.
I agree with you, but I think what's happening in Minneapolis is really kind of, I mean, we can get into that. Well, I don't think we've really talked about that, have we?
Not really, no.
The whole ICE stuff. Obviously, 2 American citizens have been killed, whether or not you believe that it was murder or state-sanctioned murder, or it was just people who were antagonizing ICE and they kind of fucked around and found out. Regardless, I'm not really weighing into that conversation, because it's like, no one got up in arms when Irishka, sorry, I always forget her name.
Irina Zarutska.
Yeah, when she was murdered, and there's been a whole host of other women who have been murdered, and the left has been completely silent on that. Yeah. And it just feels to me like I'm just so exhausted by the cherry picking. I'm really exhausted by people saying, Renee Good was a good person, and yet 2 minutes later we find out her own partner was putting cigarettes out on her child. And then this Alex Pretty, we see finally, a day later, the footage of him antagonizing ICE. And it's sort of like, these protests, they say that they're paid agitators and all that sort of stuff. It's more so, how can any regular person, any person of sound mind, any person that values common sense to any degree, look at all this and go, yeah, okay, I'm on the side of the protesters here. Like, what is this, what am I trying to say here? How have we allowed these people who are clearly mentally challenged or like under the influence? To me, it feels like they've become zombies. That's the best way to explain it. They're all under this virus where they behave so poorly, and yet regular people somehow feel like this behavior is justified because of their ideology. And so when we talk about the insane asylums coming back, these are the people that we put in there. What is happening that's allowing I'm not talking about the politicians. I know that these protests are useful for the politicians. How are we getting your average centrist lefty going, no, Renee Good was a good person, we need to stop ICE? What is this, do you think?
Yeah. So I think this is the ultimate expression of what we've talked about before, where they put themselves into this kind of Olympic sport where they have to do more, whether that's on the intersectionality side of things, they have to have more things, they have to have more oppression sort of points, or whether it's on the virtue side of things, they have to, it's not enough. Once enough people are going to a protest, it's not enough to be at the protest. You have to be on the front line. Then it's not enough to be on the front line of the protest. You have to be the one in the face of the cop. And there's kind of this edgelord kind of culture that kicks in. Now, there are some people that are being paid as well. And now I don't know that either Renee Good nor Alex Pretty fall into that category. But we know now, because there's been investigative journalism on this in the US, tracking some of the funding, that these protests are being coordinated, the signs are being handed out, people are showing up with van loads full of resources, right? Those people are on the payroll. They're making, $50, $60, $100,000 a year, depending on the role. And so you've got this mix. You've got the professional paid agitators who are there to make this go as big as possible. Then you've got your run-of-the-mill participants who are there for the right reasons. They care. They feel like something's wrong. They're unhappy about what they're seeing, and that's valid. There should always be protected, genuine protest if you're not happy with what you're seeing in any democratic free country. But within that group of people, you've got the ones that the organizers know they can rile up. They're the ones that they can, because they're all competing with each other. They want to keep their jobs. They want to be able to go back and say, hey, look at how big that protest was. Look at how crazy that was. Look at how much coverage we got. And the sad reality is that something like a Renee Good getting into the situation she got into, or Alex Pretty, the situation he got into, that's good for the organizers. It's good for the agitators. It's good for the bankrollers. And so they've got no incentive to try and stabilize people, to try and get them to come down from the edge. The best thing that happened to those protesters was that these people ended up dying. And like you, like I've watched the angles, I've watched the footage from every angle. I'm of the opinion that in neither case should the trigger have been pulled. I'm of the opinion that that Renee Good should not have been shot. I'm also of the opinion that Alex Pretty should not have been shot. But I also can understand, in the heat of the moment, with the stakes as high as they are, with the level of confrontation as high as it is, and with all of those officers on high alert, I can understand how in that moment the officers may have made a different judgment call. And I'm not going to sit here and armchair quarterback them too much. I can go through both of them in detail if anyone's interested, but I'm of the opinion that neither of those killings was actually justified. But I'm also of the opinion that even if that had happened in Australia, the officers would not be found guilty of any misconduct, because there was enough going on that there was enough reasonable doubt. We have information that they did not at the time. I
agree with you. I don't think I agree with what ICE is doing. I think getting rid of the illegals is a great thing. I think that the media and the likes of your Don Lemons should be all looking at themselves in the mirror, because at the end of the day, I struggle with this because it's not the way that I think. But I mean, we saw this in Australia with COVID. People do watch mainstream media. People do take what they say verbatim as if it's fact. And unfortunately, a lot of people still believe that these talking heads have their best interest at heart. And therefore they co-opt these people, and they basically whip them up into a frenzy. Yeah. And I think that, it's been really weird being out of Australia for a week and a half, because obviously I can see stuff on X, but I'm no longer in the environment. Like normally with what we do at the ODDCAST, I'm looking at this stuff all day, every day. I'm researching them, and unfortunately the internet here has been pretty bad. So there's been massive chunks of time where I haven't been able to get on social media. And so I'm just like, I know it's like it's a really nice break. But I'm sort of somewhat detached because I'm not getting this like 24/7 news cycle. Sure. And all of a sudden it's like my shoulders have dropped just a little bit. Like, sure, I'm on holiday, but when I say I'm on a holiday, I'm on an adventure. I'm not on a holiday. I'm not sitting by a pool. And so what I think is we've been conditioned to constantly refresh our feeds. We are getting inundated with information 24/7, most of it misinformation on both sides of the fence. Because when something happens, both sides will find a way to skew it to work for them. And unfortunately, the media knows that as well. And it's great for clicks and it's great for ad revenue. Yeah. And at the center of all this, I just wonder how many people are sort of looking sideways and going, I'm actually really exhausted from being angry all the time. I'm actually really exhausted for just assuming it's always Donald Trump's fault. I don't know, how do you get these people to reclaim their attention back and their time?
Well, I mean, that's what sort of the getting ahead in the game masterclass is kind of all about. But that's literally, I spend an entire week or an entire session just on focus and the choices that we make without knowing it. It has to happen at an individual level. And I think this is why people like Jordan Peterson resonated so deeply and he became so successful. I was going to say so quickly. Obviously, he was doing what he did for decades before he suddenly took off and became this overnight success. Because ultimately what he was saying is stop pretending that it's the algorithm's fault. And when I say the algorithm, he wasn't always talking about social media specifically. In fact, he rarely did. He was talking about life. Stop saying it's the school's fault. Stop saying it's the parents' fault. Stop saying it's capitalism's fault. Make your damn bed, get up and do the stuff that you know you need to do in order to make your life a better place. The problem is that is only appealing to a certain kind of person. There's a lot of people that want to be the victims. They want to believe that their failures are through no fault of their own. It's all everybody else's. And they're the ones that will show up to these sorts of events and protests and get involved in all that sort of ratbaggery. And in the case of those individuals, I'm not sure how you reach them. If I knew that, I'd be doing that because I think it's a pretty important thing to do.
I've been talking about agency and free will a lot around beauty standards and also around AI. Like when I did the AI masterclass, it was really interesting. I had people who couldn't be more excited to do it and to learn. And I had other people who were just vehemently against it, who were like, absolutely under no circumstance will I ever use AI. And I'm like, I hate to break it to you, but you already are. But anyway.
You already did, yeah.
And these people were literally like, there was no in between. There was no like, oh, I'm curious, I'd like to try it. And what I find interesting, the people who are anti-AI believe that AI is the person doing the damage. I mean, we talked about this with the bikini stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
AI is just like a hammer, just like a gun, just like a car. It's the human behind it. You know, and this is the conversation that people seem to want to avoid, because if you have this conversation, it would mean you have to address the fact that you are the person holding that tool and you're the one that's doing the thing. And so when it comes to a lot of this stuff, you know, I wonder, like, I'll give you an example. I have people all the time on my Instagram going, oh, Carly, I get a bit sick of the political posts. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I would love to post pretty pictures all day. Trust me, I would love that. But when I do, I get zero engagement, right? And people will say, oh, social media is superficial. No, actually, that's how I make most of my income. So you can sit there and live in like 2010 and act like Instagram isn't the important platform that it is. But for me, that's how I make my money. And so when people are like, oh, you know, just post pretty pictures and things like that, I'm like, for what purpose? Unfortunately, it doesn't work. And so I was like, I'll give this a test. I'll do something fun. And you know how in Japan there's no bins, right?
Sure.
So we got a coffee cup in the morning, or like a cup of coffee, sorry. And there was nowhere for me to put this damn coffee down. And it said, good, not bad. That was the name of the coffee shop that we went to. And honestly, for like 6 hours, I had this coffee cup and I kept putting it in my bag and trying to find a bin. I couldn't find a bin. And I was sitting there and we were on the train at one point. And I was like, this is a funny story. And I went on AI and I made a string of pictures around this coffee cup. And I gave it a name and I did it in like an anime style. And I put it up on my stories and people were like, this is really cute. You should turn this into a thing. And I was like, I will. So when I was just sitting there, I was like just having a bit of play. I put the post up on my feed. Do you know how much interaction I got?
No idea.
Fuck all.
Yeah.
Literally fuck all, right? If I post something about Pauline Hanson, if I talk about Trump, if I talk about politics, engagement goes sky high. And so to be clear, I don't really care about the engagement so much as it's not about validation for me before people want to discount what I'm saying. What I'm proving here is that there is great content out there. There is positive content. There is completely benign content. But actually, when you look at it, we as the users want the political content. We want the polarizing content. We engage with the rage bait. So as much as we lament it, we actually froth over it. Do you know what I mean?
More specifically, because I've tested this over and over again, I like to be positive. I don't like to be the negative, leaving people sort of black-pilled and all the rest of it. But honestly, when a negative story comes up, it does better. It just does. And I never try and clickbait in that sense, but there are some negative stories. And when I cover a negative story, it gets a lot more engagement. And so for people that are driven by the clicks, they are driven by the revenue, etc. Well, that's the feedback loop that tells them just go all the way down the doom and gloom, the fear mongering and everything else, because you'll make more money that way. Now, speaking of making money, we have a very upset loyal fan, Carly, and it is entirely your fault. I'm pinning this one on you. Okay. This is a beloved fan of both of ours. We know this fan well, and you've stolen from them.
Yes.
You've stolen from them.
I do this.
Can I just say, Mr. Mamdani, I am so sorry for what Carlz has done to you. It's completely unjust.
I'm running it. This is my new moniker. I am Bogani. I've been accused of being a bogan, and I embrace my boganness. So I am a Bogani. I'm a Bogani abroad.
As a libertarian, I'm deeply disgusted by her disrespect towards your private property.
Private? I don't see no trademark on that.
And as a good wannabe politician, I will proceed to do absolutely nothing about it to help you in any way, shape, or form. Just so you know.
Suck shit. And also, thank you for the super chat.
Yes, thank you for the super chat. Now, there's a couple of things we need to touch on before we get deeper in. First is that there's only about 20 tickets left for the ODDCAST first birthday party. Now, Carly, did you set an inventory number? Like, do we have to switch it off at the right time, or is it just going to say sold out?
It's going to say sold out.
Okay, good, because like there's no extras. We can't. Literally, the venue has been like, no, we will murder you if an extra person shows up.
I don't know about homicide, but yeah, no, definitely. They literally only have 200 seats, so we can't actually allow anyone else in.
So if you don't have it yet, head over to topherfield.com, go to the shop, find the big poster, the big pretty poster. You'll know it when you see it. There are literally, I think it's about 19 left as we went to air tonight, and one actually sold.
How many people want to see us in person?
Nice. Can I tell everybody? When I insisted on a 200-seat venue instead of an 80 to 100-seat venue, because Carly was like, if we just go for a smaller venue, it'll be fine. I'm like, no, we need 200 seats. I would go bigger if I could, but I know it's almost impossible to find something that's cost effective. And Carly was like, do you really think that many? Yes, Carly. Yes, I do. And guess what? They're all coming to see you. You're the popular one.
To be fair, you're right. I was hesitant because when it comes to things like this, I've seen this many times. People are like, I want this thing. Let's all do it. And then you do it, and then crickets. No one comes. You're sort of like,
yeah. Meh. I've been playing this game for a while, Carly. I am blessed to have amazing people that follow and support my work, and some of them have come over to the ODDCAST, and then the ODDCAST, of course, has gone out and found new people, and then some of your people have come over, and we've cultivated a really, really amazing little community.
I just on this comment here, I would suggest don't bring them. It's not going to be kid friendly. Please don't bring your kids.
Correct response. Yeah. No, this is grown-ups having grown-up fun. Now, do you want to dive into this particular cesspit or not? The Epstein files and the document that is circulating. There's a 200-page document. I've got it on my computer. I've been going through it. I'm happy to talk about it. Or we can just go.
I don't know about what you're alluding to, but the Epstein files in general, because what did they release? Almost 1 million pages or something crazy?
Yeah, stupendous amounts. And obviously people are using AI and using search tools to go through it really efficiently. And someone has found a 230-odd page document that names a bunch of people. And this is exactly, okay, fine, we're going there. This is exactly what you and I warned about.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why they hesitated to release the files in the first place, was that people were going to go, oh, that person's name is in there. They must be one of them.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening. There's a lot of, so for example, Pauline Hanson's name is in there. And I've had people in my messages, I'm heartbroken, Pauline Hanson, she's one of them. I thought she was different, blah, blah, blah. Oh, for crying out loud. Okay.
Yes. So Pauline Hanson is a pedophile, guys. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. She was involved in human trafficking. Yeah. Go jerk off somewhere else. Give me a minute. I think it was this computer that I downloaded it into. And it's crazy that anyone is drawing these conclusions from this document. Let me just Have I got it?
See, this story I'm not across yet, so.
Yeah, so you can't even help me out. Essentially, here it is. That is not it. That, by the way, is actually the NATO's defense expenditure of NATO countries from 2014 to 2025. Unrelated document. Unrelated document. You've talked before about having lots of tabs open.
Yes.
That is definitely me right now. Okay, I'm not going to go hunting for it. There is a document. It's 235 odd pages long, and it is word salad brain dump. And I don't have context for this document. So it's authentic. It comes from the Department of Justice website as part of the Epstein files. The problem with 1 million pages of documents being dumped is they haven't been organized and sorted and given context and everything else. It literally launches in, and it just starts with a person's name. And these are famous people, Australians, names that you would know. And then a word salad list, random dates and other people's names, and serious crimes, human trafficking, this, that, blah, 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 blah. And then, there's Tony Abbott's name, and there's Julia Gillard's name. And under each of these people is a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
The problem is there's no evidence in any of that. Were these the insane ramblings of someone who was trying to get blackmail material and was like, these are the things that we can try and hit them with? It's like, what's the context for this document? There is no evidence in it. It's the name of everyone, right? It's like, this is the problem. You go from having, everyone imagined that there was this little black book that had a list of people's names and exactly the crimes that those people had committed. Oh, on this date, such and such came with me on the plane and did these things to that, underage girl, right? That doesn't exist. And this document is so nebulous, but because the words in it are really powerful words, these are it's talking about serious crimes, and it has random dates in there, and you go, oh, it sounds like this is really important. Well, maybe it is. Maybe that's the key to unlocking. Maybe it's like the national treasure kind of, if you had enough pieces of string and enough pins to put to make it all fit. But this document by itself doesn't mean a damn thing. And I'm not saying that just to defend Pauline. She's obviously the flavor of the month in terms of how that's affecting her and people reacting to that. This document is meaningless. It cannot be used to prove anything to anyone. And until people who know what they're looking for and know what they're doing have time to go through the document dump and actually start to wrap their heads around what is the context of each document, who was the author, when, what does it purport to say? And once you know all of that, then you can decide whether it even has a shred of truth in it, because that's another whole story again. But right now we don't even have the context. So I'm just going to say way too soon. It's a great question, but way too soon. There is some crazy stuff in there. I'm not sure that they're allegations. I wonder whether these were someone identifying blackmail opportunities, as opposed to saying this person did this thing. They're saying, hey, if we connect this person to that event over there and this random date over here, we can accuse them of this thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what that document is yet.
Look, I think with a lot of this stuff too, already people in the chat, that's G. Already people in the chat are saying, there's more to this. It's more sinister. It's all Pizzagate. Sure. I think what people fail to understand, this is a litmus test. This whole Epstein thing is a litmus test. There is definitely some nefarious stuff. There is definitely some pedophilia. There is definitely some criminal behavior. That is certain. Who it is and what it is, I don't think we're going to get to the bottom of it, because I'll tell you two things. One, the people who have the money and the fuck off money and the connections will make sure of it, right? You might get one who becomes a scapegoat who falls through the cracks.
Correct.
And they're the ones.
Prince Andrew is looking like he's going to be the highest profile fall guy. His story's not over yet. He may yet cop it a lot more.
And they'll all coalesce around it and go, look, I'm so glad we found the person.
Shame.
There's all the people are there. You got to think about it. Like, this is where I get really frustrated. And just let me unravel this for you. When it comes to this kind of stuff, there is so much going on behind the scenes. Jeffrey Epstein is not this all-powerful knowing being who had, untold wealth and just finger pointed and made things happen. Sure. Like, there has to be staff. There has to be people manning the kitchen. There has to be maids. Yeah. There has to be people cleaning. Like, there's people around. There's people who are privy to other bits and pieces. So if there was anything truly, truly sinister, someone would have spoken by now. Now, certainly some people have. But then, of course, whilst that's there, you have the opportunists. You have a bunch of people who can see that this is a way for fame, for money, to get some of that victim money, you know, some of Jeffrey's money. So you have that complication in there. And the problem is somehow in the mix, you got people who are also trying to go for Trump or for Kevin Rudd or whatever. So they're going to allege that they were involved in some capacity. And then, of course, it goes into the files. And then you have regular everyday Joes who are downloading these PDFs and they see redaction and they go, oh, that must be the crime, because they, unfortunately, I'm not trying to insult the audience. I'm not saying it's our audience, because you guys are a lot smarter than the average Joe. Remember that. But your average Joe reading this redacted documents and just seeing like a name and a date and like a black square are going to go, that's it, he's the pedophile, without any journalistic knowledge, without any kind of foresight into how criminal investigations work, how things are done with you know, government departments or bureaucracy. There are so many layers of this, and I think a lot of it is also like everything has to be documented anyway. So a lot of these million pages is probably just rubbish. You know, like House and Habits, for God's sakes.
Yeah. This is the thing. Like, there's a lot of people in there because they simply crossed paths with him at some point. And let's not forget, his job was to find, in my opinion, his job was as a CIA asset to find people that he could compromise on behalf of the American government. And people say that goes further. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But he was a creep and a pedophile himself. He was facing a long time in prison, and he did a deal with the US government. Hey, I'll keep my operation running. I will ensnare and entrap people, and I will get blackmail material for you. That was his job. So his job then is to go and meet the who's who of the entire world, and to then try and figure out which people can I ensnare, which people are impervious. They're never going to fall for it. Which people are going to, you know, jump into it, and I've got them straight away. And which people, if I just play my cards right, if I'm just careful and clever, I might be able to get that person. That was literally his job. So for every person that he actually got to do something truly awful, there's probably another 500 people that he was at a dinner party, and that person was also at that dinner party, was at an event, crossed paths with somewhere, had a phone call, might have even had a private conversation with them, because he's trying to feel people out and sound people out. The fact that their name is in those files doesn't in and of itself mean anything. I will say, though, that Red Pill makes a perfectly valid point here. It should be treated like a puzzle piece. That's exactly what it is. That document with all the names and everything, it is one of the pieces of the puzzle. But without knowing the shape of the puzzle at all, it would be very, very dangerous to allow people to use the fact that, for example, Pauline Hanson's name is in a document somewhere with a whole bunch of other weird crap written underneath. That by itself shouldn't be taken to mean anything in particular. But absolutely, we need people, and people are, to go through that whole mess and try and turn it into a cohesive picture. I'm not that person, though.
I think also with this, like, both sides of the fence are guilty of the same behavior. They just act it out a little bit differently. You see something, and I think you want it to mean more than it does. And therefore, even though, like, you know, your spidey senses would be like, hang on a minute, this might be a nothing burger. But you're like, actually, I'm going to use it because this could be, like, good for me. And then you kind of weaponize it, and that's what misinformation is, right?
It doesn't even have to be that cynical. You know, I want heads to roll. Well, yeah, but I want heads to roll. Like, I want people to be held accountable. I want incontrovertible proof that justice is actually possible. Because right now, when people come at me going, "Oh, it's all hopeless and blah blah blah," I'm like, no, I believe that it's possible. But actually, I don't have a lot that I can point at to prove that it's possible. And I would love for the Epstein situation to turn into one of those ones where I'm like, yeah, see, justice can be done. Prince Andrews of this world, the Jeffrey Epstein, obviously he's dead. But the other co-conspirators of this whole thing can actually be held accountable to the same standard of law as you and I. I want to believe that that's possible. And so
I wanted to too, but I watched the Diddy trials and I just went,
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, you're right that people sort of see what they want to see, but it's not necessarily out of self-interest. It's not necessarily because they want the clicks and what have you. It can just be because they're just so desperately looking for the thing. And there are people that believe that every politician is corrupt. And so the minute someone's name comes up somewhere, they're like, "Oh, see, I told you." Well, it's just, that's the thing that they were looking for. It's what they wanted to find.
I just saw this comment from
Oops, sorry.
Thank you for the compliment.
I want to get to that one in just a sec.
Yeah, if Tim Waltz goes to prison for 10 years, I'll believe it. I'm the same. Like, I mean, the Somali fraud in Minnesota, or is it Minneapolis? Are they the same place?
Well, yeah, it's the same. Yeah, Minneapolis is a city.
Yeah. Like there is irrefutable proof that there is something nefarious going on there. And the scale is so significant, it begs the question, how could the government not be aware? Unless you are blatantly incompetent, which, sure. But there had to be some kickback scheme. There had to be some reason that scale of money was funneled away.
Yeah. And it happens in plain sight, Carlz, through what's called CPAC, or through what's called PACs, political action committees. They funnel money back to the politicians to help them win re-election and all that stuff.
But this is the thing. We know this, and this is not a secret, and yet they get away with it. So, I mean, the frustration, and I think where everyone is kind of feeling the same is on both sides, and this is kind of like the common theme. We want heads to roll. Your people, your village people, right? Like the mere plebs are just done with these elites, these politicians on both sides. Like, the right hate the left politicians, the left hate the right politicians. They're all part of the same club. And people desperately want to see some heads rolling. And I've said this 1,000 times. This is literally, we are at the precipice of the French Revolution 250 years ago. We are bloodthirsty. We want something to happen. We're at the gallows. We're waiting for the guillotine to come down,
All right. So we need to start to get through some other topics because we got a lot to talk about tonight. I do want to come across to this comment here because it leads me into talking about fuel excise. So the comment is from Sotzeo. Hair is great, Carlz. No stalker intent. I mean, stalkerish, but no intent. If you get what I mean.
I love that you say that because I've been wearing a beanie all day and I feel gross. But thank you. I appreciate this.
Yeah. There you go. It just looks good. Topher, we need a rant on the real races Australians pay. Well, he then quickly corrected himself and said taxes. And threw in an extra $7.99 for the trouble. So hey, you can misspell a word or get auto-corrected anytime if you're going to pay us for the correction. I mean, what a great business model that is. No, it's a great question. So on the 2nd of February, which is today, fuel excise went up in Australia. Isn't that great, everybody? I think what that means is that our potholes will be fixed. I don't know, sometime next week, maybe give them till March, all right? And that'll be done. So we are now paying 52.6 cents per litre of fuel or petrol or diesel to the government. And let's not forget, that's before GST. So GST is charged on the pump price, including everything except for the GST. So any other fuel excises, etc., they're all added in, and then GST is added on top. Thank you very much. Yes, the Constitution does say that you cannot tax a tax. That's been tested in court, and the government managed to argue and won the argument, preposterously in my opinion, but they won the argument that an excise is not a tax. They're two different things. Yes, they managed to get around that and have a tax on a tax. Now, that's only part of the story.
Am I correct? Was it also alcohol that went up today as well? Alcohol excise?
Probably, yeah, and probably tobacco as well. I probably did all of them. I was just focused on the fuel one because that's the one that affects most people.
That's working really well for the tobacco wars, isn't it?
I tell you what, if I was like in the like the fire repair business, I'd be loving it right now with the current policy settings. But
it's almost like prohibition doesn't work, like that's where we're getting to.
Carly, I don't want to get done for disinformation. Can you please tone it down? All right, that's wild conspiracy theory stuff, nonsense.
Again, with this though, I just had a look very quickly online before we jumped on the podcast around the excise, and the lefties on X are still defending the government. They're like, this is a new sentiment that I haven't seen before, because we talk about how Australians are paying such exorbitantly high tax. The lefties are now coming out saying they're proud to pay tax. Paying tax is what's required of a good citizen. I've never seen this kind of gaslighting before. These are the same people who will scream blue murder when there's not enough money for them to do whatever they want to do. But now this new conversation is around how proud they are to be participating and paying tax. And again, this is what I'm saying, like this weird delusions that people must be suffering under to be able to take something like this, which we know everyone's been crushed by the cost of living in Australia. We know this.
Sure.
Adding more tax on top of it, and whether or not it affects you or it doesn't, you're sort of going, this is how much the government doesn't care.
Correct.
They could stop this.
Correct.
They are not stopping it.
All right. Now, hold that thought, because you make a good point, and it's very relevant to where I'm going with this. Guess what?
Oh, God.
There are people who think that the fuel excise doesn't go far enough. Did you know, Carly, I'm sure you've heard it said by green groups, that the fossil fuel industry in Australia is massively government subsidized, that our mining industry is government subsidized to the tune of billions of dollars a year. Have you heard this?
Yes.
You've heard that claim, right? So that claim is made up of a couple of different things, all of them ridiculous, but the core, at the heart of that claim, is a thing called the fuel tax rebate scheme. See, if you're going to charge people fuel excise and the excuse is that money is going to get used to fix the roads, then what about people who use fuel but they're not on the roads? What about people who use enormous amounts of fuel in massive open cut mining operations, burning gallons of liters of diesel a minute to haul 500 tons of rock at a time, and they're nowhere near a road? They're not going to damage a road no matter how long they run that thing for. So in order for the government to be able to bring in this tax and justify it on the basis that it was to pay for the roads, they had to agree to an exception. If you burn fuel not on the roads, then you get a rebate. So you pay the tax when you buy the fuel. When you prove that you burnt the fuel off the road, then you get the tax back. So that mostly applies. There's a couple of other industries as well, but by and large, that applies to mining and agriculture, because they run heavy machinery off-road day and night all the time. So you'll be amazed to learn, Carly, that earlier this week, a Labor faction, like an environmental group within the Labor Party, came out and launched a campaign. And it just so happens that there's other think tanks that have randomly started talking about the same thing at the same time. Wouldn't you know it? Just a wild coincidence about how this tax break, not a tax refund, not a, hey, this tax doesn't apply to you because you don't use the roads, at least not with that fuel. No. These tax breaks, these subsidies, the government is spending. Did you know that it's in the top 10 government expenditures, this fuel tax rebate scheme? They're spending money on tax rebates. This is the language they use. This is the manipulation that they offer you. And so there is now a genuine campaign underway to essentially get the tax rebate abolished. And they're serious and they're pushing hard. Now, last year, Anthony Albanese said there would be no changes to the tax rebate. Obviously, the mining companies have a lot of political clout. For as long as he was worried about the upcoming election, he had to be very careful what he said. Well, that election's gone. The Liberal Party look like they're imploding. The budget is completely out of control. $57 billion in, whoops, we didn't factor that spending in over the next 10 years. Jim Chalmers just being like, whoopsie, got that one wrong. So the budget's shot to shit. The opposition are as good as dead, or at least for now, as good as dead. I genuinely believe that we are going to see Anthony Albanese trying to put the abolition of the fuel tax rebate for the mining and agricultural sectors onto the agenda before the next election, and he will sell it as climate justice on the part of the mining companies, and as a general sort of a fairness type of argument, making big business, big agriculture, big miners pay their fair share. And I suspect that he will actually get it through. I suspect that he will probably get that done before the next federal election, and then it will be up to the next government, whoever that is, hopefully not him, to then repeal that. Because what will happen, of course, is instantly all the price of all the food on your shelf is going to go up. The competitiveness of the resources industry is going to go down. And let's not forget, it's those evil mining corporations that have carried Australia through the last 50 years of global economic ups and downs. And now we're just death by 1,000 cuts. This is just another cut out of the myriad of cuts that go on. So, Zayo, I hope that was enough of a rant for you, but that is the state of play right now. The government is running out of money. Jim Chalmers is not going to rein in his spending. And I think that very high on their list is going to be getting rid of this tax rebate on fuel excise.
our government will do anything but actually make any changes for the Australian people. Everything about this is ideology. And, Anthony Albanese, just like Chris Bowen, they're climate crusaders. They want to be seen as the people that turned Australia around, who fixed the climate. This is sort of on topic, but off topic. But
right,
when you travel, right? Obviously, I'm in Japan. Japan is a beautiful country. I talked about that last week, and everyone got really mad at me because I said, like, Australia has so much work to do. I just want to give you an example. I don't even know what the population of Japan is. Is it 70 million? Can someone Google that for me? I actually
somewhere up there. I did actually Google it before I traveled there. I'll just Google it now.
I know it's
Japan population. Oh no, over 120.
Okay, so 120 million, which is what, like 4 times the size of Australia?
Four and a half Australias.
So just let me flesh this out for you, and you see the ridiculousness of our policy. So in Australia, we're not allowed plastic straws. This is a big kerfuffle. This is something that got people really upset. So we are stuck with paper straws that disintegrate, or those awful bamboo ones that feel like, part of a plywood in your mouth.
The taste of glue that comes out of those paper ones after 20 minutes, it doesn't matter what your drink was, it's now glue.
Mark my words, in 5 years' time, we'll hear about how terrible they are for our bodies.
Carcinogenic.
Exactly. Give it a minute. But anyway, so all you think about all the things that we have been told in Australia in the recent years because of climate change. Plastics is a big one. Everyone talks about microplastics, plastic, disposable ware, Tupperware, all this sort of stuff. All evil, all bad. We can't have any of it. You come to somewhere like Japan. Now, obviously, it's a small landmass with 120 million people on it. But then you've got China, you've got India, you've got Pakistan, you've got Thailand, all of these Southeast Asian countries, and they all do the same thing. Everything is individually wrapped in plastic. It is plastic within plastic within plastic, within more plastic, and then plastic extra around it. So just to paint a picture for anyone who may not have been to a Southeast Asian country before, if you go and get yourself a hot drink, they'll give you it in a styrofoam cup with plastic around it so that the lid doesn't come off. And then they put it separate plastic bag if you've ordered food. And that separate plastic bag goes in another plastic bag. And in that, you have a wet wipe in a plastic bag. You have your straw in a plastic bag. You have your spoon in a plastic bag. And then all that goes in there with more serviettes and more little plastic film. That's just a cup of coffee. And then everywhere you go, plastic around this, plastic around that. And I can't help but look at this and go, we are being sold such bullshit in Australia over, plastic straws or single-use plastics is what they talk about. And you see that in a country of what, 30 million in Australia? We're not that yet. What are we, 28?
27, 28, yeah.
Right. And you think about the rhetoric around plastic straws in Australia and how diabolical it is.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see the level of plastic. And I'm just saying this from my experience here the last 8 days. The amount of waste, because in Japan, there's not a lot of bins. So you end up carrying around your waste the whole day.
Yeah.
All of it is just like shrink plastic wrap and plastic packets. And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at G going, we're worried about one freaking plastic straw. And in Asia, this is not a thing they think about. They don't care. Now,
and there's a billion of them when you put all the countries together.
That was my point. So you see it in Australia with our little small scale and people sitting there with their little shitty paper straw. And then you come to Asia. I can't even fathom how much plastic is used in a day, let alone in a year, by all of the Southeast Asian countries. And you just think how much we are being punished through guilt in first world countries, in Western countries. And then abroad, it's not a conversation. They do not care.
Yeah, they would look at you weird.
Yeah, 100%. And so you sit here and you sort of think like, it's hard not to get really angry with Australia. And this sort of ties into a couple of comments we got on last week's podcast. There were a lot of people who were really mad at you and I for shitting on Australia. I don't know if you remember this bit because you might have blacked out by that point.
I was gone.
No, we were comparing Australia to Japan and other things. And I just want to say this for the record, just for anyone that's unclear on where we stand. Topher and I fucking love Australia. That's why we do this. We are fighting for our country. But because we love our country, we are super critical of it because we need to be, because we need there to be change. If we sit there and go, she's beautiful, Australia's amazing, it's perfect,
she'll be
it's the
right.
best country in the world, she'll be right. Guess what? That's exactly why we're in this fucking mess. It drives me crazy. People get so angry because we criticize Australia and Australians. Yes, we want to hold you to a higher standard. Yes, we care because your attitude of she'll be right and everything's sweet, everything's cool is exactly why we end up with someone like Albanese as our fucking prime minister. Yeah. Sorry, rant over.
So I want to come back to plastic. Have I given you my theory about microplastics before and where they come from?
Nah, but go for it.
You know what's worse than a plastic bag floating in the ocean? A bajillion tiny pieces of microplastics. Now, that's not according to me. That's now according to the greenies. The greenies say microplastics are the worst thing. They're everywhere. You can't get a scoop of sand off a beach on a remote island without getting a bajillion pieces of plastic in there, and it's completely upsetting the ecosystem and BPAs and this is and that's, and I don't know. It's turning the frogs gay. I think I heard someone say that once. It must be true, right?
Calm down, Alex Burns, but sure.
Guess where the microplastics come from? Biodegradable plastics. Right. So in the same way, so you'd be too young to remember this. I'm also too young to remember this, but I've been told plastic bags were sold as the environmentally friendly alternative to paper bags because supermarkets used to hand over paper bags and they involved cutting down trees. You need an enormous amount of water to be able to make paper pulp and then, turn it into a bag. Then they break and they're single use only. Plastic bags only use a little bit of oil. And then actually, if you look after them, you can use them multiple times. You can use them as a bin liner once you finish carrying your groceries home from the supermarket. Plastic bags were the environmental alternative. And guess what? They were right for as long as the plastic bag stayed together as a single plastic bag. If that goes into landfill, you know how many turtles it's going to kill? 0. You know how much environmental damage a plastic bag in landfill is going to do over the next 45 million years? 0. Absolutely none. You take that same plastic bag, you tell people it's biodegradable so they care less about where it ends up. And pretty soon you're going to have bajillions of pieces of teeny tiny little bits of plastic that are getting swallowed by fish and eaten by marine life and can become completely unavoidable. And now we end up exactly where we are. It was the bleeding heart greenie do-gooders who couldn't accept the idea that maybe we just put it in landfill. Maybe, hang on, just hold on, big brain moment here. We dig a great big ginormous hole in the ground, so deep that things don't come back out of it. And we put it in there. And because it's never going to biodegrade, it's just going to sit there and do nothing for the rest of anyone's life. That was a perfectly valid solution until the greenies ruined it.
The Japanese just incinerate everything.
Yeah, well, that too.
Just to paint a picture, again, for those of you who haven't been here, and I'm literally sitting in Japan. This is why I'm talking about it, because I'm here right now. It is immaculate. It is so clean. Sure, there's some parts that Shibuya last night was pretty hectic. It was a Sunday night last night. There's people everywhere. There's a bit of rubbish on the floor. But for the most part, when you're out of the big congested areas of Tokyo, it is immaculate. That doesn't happen by accident. That is a cultural thing. We can't have that in Australia because we as individuals also don't have the agency to foresee the consequences of us not giving a shit. I've brought this up 100 times. I'm not going to keep saying the same thing, but chicken in the noodle aisle is exactly that. It's not my job. It'll be okay. It's only one little thing. So Topher and I talk about agency a lot. Everyone is constantly trying to get the government to do something. Why isn't the government doing this? Realistically, the only reason Japan is immaculate is not because of the government. It's because it's part of their culture. It is inherent in who they are. They don't need rubbish bins everywhere because they don't throw their rubbish on the floor.
They take it with them home. Yeah.
Can you just I'm going to harp on about this for a second. I just want you guys who are watching this right now to think of that. The rubbish you use throughout your day, whether it's your coffee cup, a serviette, a tissue, a packet of chips, whatever it is that you use every day, there is no bin for it. You are putting it back in your bag and you're taking it home with you. You wouldn't do it. No Australian would willingly accept that. If you did that, if you ran that as a politician and said, I'm going to clean up Australia, I'm going to make Australia immaculate, I just need you guys to do one thing. Take your rubbish home. I'm telling you now, every Australian would be up in arms about it. You can't take our bins. That's ridiculous. What do you want me to do? Carry a coffee cup all day? And this is why I get really mad at Australians, and you guys can come at me and you can get really pissed off and say, Carly, fuck you, whatever. The point is, there are plenty of things what we can do at an individual level that we won't do because it inconveniences us. And that is why Australia has such a bloated government. We need the government to do it. We need the government to clean up our country, to mow the lawns, to do the roads, because there's no personal agency anymore. And it frustrates me.
Okay, we need to stop the press for a second. Firstly, this whole issue of people stealing the intellectual property of our beloved Mamdani is spreading, and Sloth, shame on you. But I like your style, so I'll actually allow you to have 11 fucks, not 10. So well played, you. There's a couple of other super chats we haven't got to, but we need to get to this
one. Really big one. Who was that? Here we go.
That was Sotzeo, who has a mission for us. Carly says, please give 5 people a ticket to your show. You pick. Thanks for everything you do. You both do. Hate the chat spelling. Yes, wrestling with the autocorrect. Dude, that's amazing. Thank you. So, Carly, you need to jump on and remove 5 tickets from the amount, because if we sell 200 and then give away 5, we're going to have a problem. So jump in right now and do that. How do you want to do this? I've had this happen with me before, and I have kind of my way of doing it, but do you have an idea of how you would want to do it?
No, because I don't want to be accused of playing favorites.
Okay. So here's how I've handled this in the past, because I've been fortunate enough to run events and had people, do this and so that's amazing. So I run an honesty system, and it's simply this. If you're watching, and 870 people are watching right now, and cost was the reason why you told yourself you couldn't come, if that was the barrier, can you send me an email? Topher@topherfield.com. Simple as that. Send me an email and let me know. I'm going to say up to 2 tickets. All right. But this is an honesty thing. You have to be in a position where it wasn't a case of you didn't want to pay the money. It was a case of you weren't in a position to be able to pay the money. You were going to miss out. You wanted to be there, but you were going to miss out because of the money side of things. And if that's you, send me an email. All right. And we'll put those emails together and sort out the details of exactly how many people email and all that sort of stuff. I'll sort through that myself. But Sotzaya, thank you very, very much. And from the people that receive those tickets, thank you very much for doing that. And guys, if you were sitting there going, hey, it sounds like it's going to be fun, but it's just a shame I'm going to have to miss out. Well, now you don't have to. So send me an email, topher@topherfield.com. Yeah. Thank you. So,
so we have some good people in chat. I just want to bring this comment up quickly. Sorry, Carly, I disagree. I think many Australians will get behind cleaning up Australia and taking rubbish home. I'm sorry to disagree with you, but I call bullshit. You know why I call bullshit? Because look at the state of our country. Do you know how I know this? Because did I tell this story in the podcast? I can't remember. It happened over Christmas.
You can about that damn Christmas tree one more time about the weeds on the Nepean Highway. I swear, Carly.
It's not. Okay. I don't think I told this story because it literally happened over Christmas. So G and I went for a walk on the beach in where we live. And he spotted it. I didn't see it, but he's like, oh, can you go over there and grab that little bit of plastic? It was floating in the
You have mentioned it. Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, I go in there, pull out the water, and we'd seen a whole bunch of people walk past. No one else thought to pick it up. And I picked it up, and I got clapped by 3 boomers behind me who had literally just walked past it themselves. And I got wet. I was wearing shorts, but it was a little bit deeper than I expected. And, whatever, but I picked it up. So I disagree with this comment because there is let me just explain this for you, for those who are not getting what I'm saying. There doesn't need to be a government incentive to make you do this. You don't need some ad campaign behind it. We don't need to have some kind of big messaging billboards, everyone get behind Clean Up Australia Day. You could just do it now. You could just do it today.
No, hold up. Oh man, the big brain moments are coming thick and fast tonight. I'm thinking we get rid of all the little bins. We just concentrate it into like a smaller number of big bins. We want them to be big so they can hold a lot of stuff and visible. I reckon we make them blue and make them out of metal so that they're durable. We wouldn't want to have to throw the bin into the bin. And I think in Victoria, they might have like 80, 86 or 76, whatever it was, big blue bins coming available pretty soon. And I reckon, I mean, people filled them with so many machetes, and I think it just must be, I mean, you know, we're a machete-free country now. I think if we just change the word machete to rubbish bins, that's what we should call them. And we'll put them places and people can put their, and then the country will be spotless. There you go. Problem solved.
You're an ideas man, Steve. You're an ideas man.
I tell you what, it's a shame no one came up with that before.
Do you see my point? Like, this is where I get frustrated because people go, "Oh, well, we would do it if the government said this. Why don't you just do it now? Literally, why don't you just do it now? You know,
correct.
Like I've always run my life by the whole: it's better to do and ask for forgiveness than to not do it and seek permission and be denied. I always forget the way that goes, but you know, because people are waiting. They're waiting for someone to give them the okay to do the thing. Or you could just do it. You have free will, goddammit.
Yeah, 100%. All right, couple more super chats. We need to, blast through really quickly. There's a question here when I was talking about the fuel rebate. What about fuel for energy generators? Do they get the rebate? You've got to be a certain size, and then you have to sign up for the scheme. So if you were just running like a home generator, no, and it wouldn't be worth it. You've got to be kind of industrial in scale, and then you can do all the paperwork and sign up for the scheme. Now, this is a great question because the answer to this is absolutely yes. Do you think they will eventually charge us per kilometre rather than a fuel excise? So California are now into their second decade of a road user charge type scheme. They're trying to, classic California, takes them 2 decades to figure it out. You know, the UK have trialled a few things. Essentially, what this is just turning every single road into a toll road. The only reason they haven't already done it is because of the logistics of, you know, let's say you wanted to turn literally every road into a toll road. How many toll gates do you need? All that data, all that information being fed back and all that infrastructure to maintain, it was just easier to slap it onto fuel. It was sort of a more efficient way to do it because it cost less money to implement. But the reality is every single one of us is now driving around in a car that either tracks us or with a phone in our pocket that tracks us. All of that data and all of that infrastructure now exists. And it is just a matter of time. The problem they're going to have to overcome is resistance on the basis of privacy. And I will certainly be pushing back on that basis as well. At a technical level, a road user charge is actually better policy, right? And don't come at me. I'm not defending any taxes. But as a general rule, the more directly someone pays for the thing that they use, the better the outcomes are in the long run. Right? If you just throw money into a pot and then get to take whatever food you want, that's not going to work out very well. The shop's going to go bankrupt, right? You need to pay for the food you get. You need to pay for the kilometers you drive. You know, a road user charge is actually a much better policy from an outcomes perspective in terms of the correct allocation of tax revenue towards road maintenance and road widenings and upgrades, etc. It is a better policy. But it is a level of power and information that no government should have. And so I will be opposing it, despite the fact that it would, and it's going to get argued for on the basis that it's better policy. We can better allocate our tax money, our scarce resources to maintain all of that's true. All of that's true. But nobody should have the power to have that kind of information. But the problem is we're already giving them that information. It's not being collated and used in that way, but that information now exists. Not only do they know where your car went, they know how many people were in it, because let's be honest, everyone above the age of 15 these days has a phone on them when they're in your car. So unfortunately, yes, I think it's inevitable that we are going to go that way. I hope it's after I'm dead, but we'll see.
I think people need to just remember that if the government could tax you for breathing, they would. They just haven't figured out a way of doing it yet.
I mean, they're trying. That's basically what a CO2, well, that's what carbon credits and trading schemes are. I mean, they're just about taxing the air we breathe.
Yeah. I think, you know, we sound very cynical because I think at this point, there's very little left that the government isn't trying to tax us on. And at the forefront of this conversation is, why are we paying so much tax? What am I getting for it? It's more so, why won't the government stop spending? This is business 101. And this is, you know, this is what we see with Albanese. You've just put the taxes up, okay, excise isn't a tax, whatever you want to say. All right, fine. Then why is it everything else just keeps going up and up and up? Our groceries are going up, our utilities are going up. You've promised us all these things. All of the lefties have been jumping up and down going, these are great policies, and yet things are getting more expensive, things are getting harder, businesses are closing down, people are starting to have to choose whether they want to turn their heating on or their cooling on. And yet no one is asking, why doesn't the government just slow down the spending? And I think, we briefly touched on this a couple of weeks ago, the NDIS thing. I think this NDIS provider, this is going to be the Achilles heel of the Labor government. I'm just hoping that there's someone who's currently digging deeper into it, not just like, oh, this particular individual was a scammer. There needs to be some kind of scheme, some kind of like system that's been weaponized here. And if someone can do a Nick Shirley and uncover that, I think Australia's going to go down some tougher times, because at the core of this, the conversation is never actually around the thing that needs to happen. The conversation is always around the idea or the bleeding heart. It's never about the actual utility of the thing that we're debating. And this is why I'm so hard on Australians. And this is why I get so frustrated, because, sitting here and arguing who's a better politician or, who's a better PM, like, why is no one talking about what the government could be doing today? Like, the federal election is 2 years away still?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we talking about what can be done today, right now, without needing to wait another 2 years?
Okay, so Carly, I need to be careful here, because I upset a lot of people. I have no memory of it, but you told me I said some pretty mean things about women, right?
Point of the podcast, aren't we? Isn't our entire thing just to piss people off?
But hey, you said that you had two 90-year-old grandmothers write into the show complaining about my comportment last week and how drunk I was. And so I wouldn't want to upset the 90-year-old granny.
Very unprofessional. People got very upset with you. And also, just one more comment. I went through the podcast. I think I swore twice. You potty mouth Jezebel.
Yeah.
And you know who? No. Let me finish. You know who got told off the fucking swearing? What is with your
That's double standards, isn't it?
Me? Fuck. I just swore twice.
So Carly, what I've learned is that in a bottle of whiskey, there's the whiskey, and then there's also a lot of swear words, but they sink down to the bottom half. And it's just like always when I get down to the bottom half, I have a sip and then they just come back out again. It's not my fault. They're packaged up in the bottle. But no, I'm on my best behavior. I'm on my best behavior today. I do not want to upset anyone. And certainly I would not want to repeat the mistake of talking about women the way that I did last week. But you just mentioned there that people are sort of making sort of more emotionally driven decisions. And I think this is why women should not be allowed to vote anymore. I think we've just completely got that wrong.
Yeah, I know you say that to be funny, but I honestly sometimes I sit here and go, you got a point. I say that as a woman,
Yeah, I don't actually mean that sincerely. For those that are new, I don't mean that sincerely. But what we do need is for everybody that has the power of the vote to take a much more long-sighted view. And this is where emotions can be a problem. Emotions tend to make you want to fix the thing that's in front of you and worry about the consequences later, because you have a much stronger emotional attachment to the thing that you can see right in front of you. And so you end up by definition with a tendency towards more short-sighted policymaking or more short-sighted promises from your politicians. And the problem with that is this heartbreaking story that's happening now. If you make the wrong decision in the big picture, there's going to be 10 heartbreaking stories in a year. When if you'd made a different decision here, the one that might have seemed a bit heartless here, then there'd still only be one heartbreaking story in a year's time. It wouldn't have multiplied by 10. And the problem is when you're making these sorts of short-sighted, more emotionally driven decisions, you tend to create the conditions that perpetuate more suffering later, because your emotional tendency is to not actually hold people accountable for the consequences of their actions. The compassionate argument is, that wasn't really their fault. We can't, because you can't really be that hard on them. We should give them another chance. This is what we call a compassion argument now. This is with the emotionally driven policy. Well, the problem is incentives matter. And when you stop holding people accountable to a higher standard to do better, then you incentivize more people in the future to make the same mistakes, or in fact, they stop becoming mistakes and they just become a part of their culture. It's just normalized now. And so actually, unfortunately, if you want to reduce suffering in the long term, you have to allow people to suffer in the short term. That's how lessons get learned. That's how people become examples, and other people learn lessons and go, right, I'll never make that mistake myself. So this sort of short-sighted, emotion-driven decision-making or voting public that we unfortunately have perpetuates suffering, which then means they go back to the politicians to say, oh, well, now you need to do even more, which then perpetuates even more suffering because even more people haven't learned their lessons, and down into this spiral we go. Okay. No, you go, and then I'll finish my point.
No, finish your point. Sorry.
Okay. I have a more palatable hypothesis than gender-based sexist sort of voting rules. And that is, you only get to vote if you've been a net taxpayer after all welfare is taken into account since the previous election, right? So if since the last election, you have been a net taxpayer. Once we deduct all of your family tax benefits, we deduct all of your welfare payments, we deduct whatever. If you are a net taxpayer, you get a vote at the next election. If you're not, well, hopefully you will be by the time we get to the following election after that. I think at that point, you would completely transform Australia in one single reform.
I want to say yes. I'm a bit disheartened by some of the social content I've been seeing in recent weeks, particularly from women-led podcasts or women-led platforms. You know, we've seen that diabolical graph where women have become extremely left and men have sort of stayed pretty much the same. And the only thing I can think of with this, and, you know, I don't sort of hang around these women. I observe them.
Sure.
These people aren't my friends is what I'm trying to say. So I don't have sort of firsthand involvement with these people. But what I can see with these kind of women today is it's very much focused on the short-term result, as you said. But what they care about is living in the now, and they justify their behavior by they've been oppressed by previous generations, so they're making up for it. And so because of the history that predates them, by the way, they as the lead generation should be able to make up for all of these terrible things that happened before them. So, you know, I played a podcast for you last week where these women were sitting there judging of this psychiatrist who was talking on a Diary of CEO podcast. And now that was Mia Friedman's podcast. And now Shameless, which is another really big Gen Z women podcast. And when I say big, I'm talking millions of downloads. Like, you guys probably wouldn't listen to these podcasts, and that's fine. But there are other podcasts out there that are huge and significant that do talk about this stuff and do impact women. So this is why I bring them up. And they were also talking about the same episode of Stephen Bartlett on Diary of a CEO. And again, the disdain they had on the look on their face, like this stink face, this man was genuinely talking about how some parts of the gene pool are being wiped out because they're not finding a mate and dating. And all these women can think about was incels and how, no, that's because women are choosing not to settle anymore. So everything for a woman is just outside their own vision, right? It's just at their nose. For this psychiatrist who's doing big research, he's looking at the macro, he's zooming right out, looking at the gene pool, looking at what happens when we start to shrink things down. That gets lost on these people. All they can think about is that one guy that they swiped right on with Tinder, had a really bad time, and that in their mind is exactly how all men are. And this kind of really superficial thinking is exactly how they vote. So this is how someone like Albo will come out and say, we're going to do the right thing by Aboriginals and say sorry again. And everyone's like, yes, we need to do this. And if that means I have to cut off my own hand to like feel better about this, like, I'm being ridiculous. I know I'm being ridiculous, but but
you're not wrong.
Punish me more so I can feel absolved of this guilt. Which sorry, go.
I was going to say there is a masochistic streak to it. Yes.
100%. So which brings me to Pauline Hanson's super progressive movie. Have you watched it yet?
I haven't, but put a pin in that. Let's get to that in just a second. Do you have any context for this comment? Joe is obviously a regular, comments a lot. I can't make head nor tail of this. The most depressing thing for help and government usage systems are so terrible. I've always admired you and hope you can help us. Joe, if you need help, I'm happy to help. I don't understand the assignment. If you need to share something with me, send me an email, topher@topherfield.com. So you've been following for a long time. Happy to hear from you, and happy to help if I can. But yeah, I can't work with that.
Do you want to answer this?
I would say if you're not a net taxpayer, then I don't think you get to choose how taxes are spent. Ultimately, government is a machine that takes tax money and spends it on things. And so no, I'm sorry. I'm going to stand by that. And I'm actually going to go further. James Bennett is correct. If your salary comes from the government, no vote. Yes, actually, let's go further. You have to be a net contributor even after government salaries, etc. So if you work for the government or in a government paid position, I'm sorry, you don't get a say. Now, this has some precedent. It used to be that only landowners got a say. Now, I disagree with that. I don't think that's correct. But it was essentially, the theory was, you need the people making decisions to have skin in the game. You need them to actually have something deeper than just what I want today, this sort of short-term hedonism. People that have a connection that makes them more interested in the greater good and the longer-term outcomes. Land ownership, I think, is not correct. Archetype Venezuela master's degree. Yeah, you're going to get drunk tonight.
You would let me. I was going to segue over to Bukele, which is a drinking game. But yeah, we've been really bad at the drinking game the last couple of weeks.
We've been bad at the drinking game. We need to actually get better at this before the party, because otherwise we're going to get to the party and you will have stopped talking about your masters and Venezuela will be old news and Archetype will be naff and everyone will just be dry.
Yeah. So
the bar will be empty.
Abby Chatfield, they're drinking words.
Yeah.
I can't remember what else.
Tell me about the super progressive movie.
All right. Just quick show of hands in the chat. If you've seen it, give me a 1. Just type 1 in the chat if you've seen the super progressive movie. And please, if you're going to watch it, pay for it. Don't try and shortchange them and get around paying for them. I kid you not, the amount of people.
One more thing. I saw this one. Topher, if I'm a sole trader with a government contract, why shouldn't I get a vote? Because if you're making all of your money out of government contracts, then you make your money keeping bureaucrats happy, not customers. You're not engaged in capitalism, you're engaged in corporatism. If you have a government contract amongst the others, well, then on balance, do you get paid more by the government or do you pay more in taxes? We'll figure that out, and then maybe you can vote. But if you are someone who makes your money from government, even if you yourself are in the private sector, then you are engaged in corporatism. You're engaged in a form of soft fascism where your primary concern is keeping government and bureaucrats happy rather than customers. Sorry, I'm going to be hard line on this. Sorry. Back to who's watched the movie.
All right, just so you guys know, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but I think it was brilliant. It's brilliant because it's satire, but it also just shows you how ridiculous and obscene we have become. And it's centered in Melbourne, right? It's centered in a bubble called Naarm. And I'm not going to tell you guys the storyline, but it's called the Super Progressive Movie. Highly, highly recommend it. Even if you don't like Pauline Hanson, even if you're not a One Nation person, the movie is brilliant because what it does is just shows you how completely off the reservation we've gone with the way that we talk about really stupid things. Again, I'm in Asia at the moment. I'm in Japan. I can tell you now, no one here is worried about pronouns. No one here is worried about misgendering someone. Or I heard this the other day. Did you know this? I honestly, hand on heart, did not know this. I did not know the word Aboriginal is now a slur. Did you know that?
Well, there we go. I was about to make, sorry. My brain went a long way in a very short space of time. You know how I'm back to calling fatties fatties? Because that's actually now the politically correct term again after we went through all the stuff. And retards are retards. Because we've gone through special and all that, and now we're back to just the actual thing. My mind went to a slang term for Aboriginals, which I haven't heard since I was probably 12. And I nearly suggested it, but that really would get us cancelled.
Was that like the cheese company that no longer exists?
Oh, no. Not, coon is a word for white fellas. I can say coon because I am one.
Oh, I thought it was the other way. Anyway, regardless, I learnt this the other day because I said the word Aboriginal or Aborigines on Instagram and I got attacked for it. It's a colonial slur, which this is how my mind works now, right? Like I'm really good at this mental gymnastics. So we can't say the word Aboriginal because in their mind or in the woke mind, it is a colonial slur. All right, sure. So the word First Nations or the word Indigenous, I hate to break it to you, but they're also colonial words. And the alphabet is also colonial. So any word that you make using the English alphabet is likely to be colonial. So I don't know. Am I meant to just beat my chest and like say ooga booga? Like, what do you want me to say?
But we can meet halfway here, Carlz. What if we use the alphabet from like England and whatever, because it's kind of entrenched now. But what if
that's colonial?
Just hear me out. But hang on, no. But what if we combine the colonialisms? And what we're going to do is we're going to switch our numbers over to Arabic, because that's super inclusive, right? We'll use Arabic numerals and English letters. And what if the words in our language come from like 16 different other languages, all like smushed together to then create kind of this melting pot language? So we got that on one side. We've got Arabic letters, Arabic numbers on the other side. I think that's a super inclusive. Oh, hang on, wait. That's what we've already got. It's like, honestly, it's everything is colonialism. Like everyone's been colonized. The language I speak was passed on to me after it was smushed together from a bajillion other languages. I use Arabic numerals. So do you, right? We are all using Arabic numerals in our numbers. Everything, you know, if you want to unwind colonialism, then I guess we're going to have to get Islam out of the Middle East, because that was a colonialist conquest as well. Like, what? How far back are we going to go?
Don't you dare! You can't touch the untouchables, Topher. Like that. Sorry, but that's off limits. Having to even suggest that Islam was colonizing the Arab world.
Already did.
Audacity.
Did it already.
Yeah. So back to the super progressive movie. Please go and see it. It's really good. It's really clever, and I can only imagine how much time it took to make. But there's a lot of innuendo that, like, if you're not paying attention, you kind of miss it. It's quite cleverly done. Whoever wrote it did a really good job. And, you know, the one thing that I found really heartwarming about it, the message is there if you choose to see it. And the message is, like, most Australians are genuinely kind people. We all show up differently. Some of us are more Bogani than others. Some of us swear more than others. Some of us are not as fluent in like nonsense as others. But really, I think, and I've said this 1,000 times, you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times, Australians in their hearts are pretty giving people. And we see this with the bushfires. We see this with the floods. When Australians need to come together, they do. And they don't need the government to incentivize them. They do it because they exercise their free will. So, and that's kind of the point of the movie. Like that's the genuine undertone there. And you sort of go, all of this nonsense that we're bickering over, like, you know, political correctness and policing each other's words. I mean, we have it here in the podcast. Oh, Carly, you shouldn't say that word. The reason people are using the word retarded again is because the more you control language, the more you limit the way we're able to communicate with each other, the harder it is to have these conversations. Retard is a genuine word. We've talked about this before. Just because it's associated as a slur, well, I'm sorry, harden up. I don't really care if you're offended. This whole bullshit about being offended, this started, 15 years ago? I'm done. Be offended. I'm sorry you're a fucking sook. I don't care. Grow up. If that's the worst thing that happens in your day is someone says a word and you go, oh, that's not really appropriate. I'm sorry. You're living in a beautiful country then, aren't you? And you know who's not worried about people using the word retarded? People who don't know where to get clean water to drink. You know what I mean? People who have been slaughtered for their religious beliefs in Sudan or Nigeria.
My brain is a scumbag. I thought you were going to say people who are too busy licking windows.
No, I'm not trying to get totally cancelled. You know, I'm not trying to be a total.
I'm sorry, my brain is a scumbag today. That's what I heard. That's
that
what was. That's where
hangover is making you. But on this, I did see this today, and I thought this was worth playing. I've just got to cue it up. Here we go. Let's have a play. So Holly Valance, she actually did a song for the movie. Did you see this?
I heard a bit about the controversy. Yes, got taken off Apple and then restored with the help of Kyle and Jackie O. I didn't quite that plot twist kind of lost me. I didn't quite follow that. Maybe you can fill me in.
Kyle's actually quite a fan of Pauline. He's also a fan of Albo. I don't think Kyle and Jackie O are super political. I think because they're prominent radio hosts, they talk about things. But as far as like weighing in, I think they're shock jocks. They're going to say things to get people's attention. But from what I understand, Kyle is quite warm towards Pauline Hanson. Anyway, long story short, for those who don't know, this song from the super progressive movie was based around a woman that looks like a man, and Holly Valance did a version of her song Kiss Kiss and rewrote it for the movie. Anyway, and because so many people were supporting the movie and jumping behind it, we can't have that on the right. We're not allowed to show that people center right, or anyone that might be conservative has things and supports things, because in the mind of the woke people, seeing people gather together, like, that's fascism. So the song was trending.
We're also not allowed to have the arts. The arts are off limits to us.
The arts are off limits to conservatives for sure. And so it got taken down off iTunes. It was almost number one, or I think it did go number one, and then mysteriously vanished off iTunes, right? No one knows why. It just happened. And Kyle and Jackie O, I don't know how or who they called or whatever, but they were able to get it back on the charts. And of course, it's trending. Now, of course, this is all about controlling the messaging. They don't want people to know that people are going to this. And obviously at the premieres, like, you can't get a ticket to the in-cinema showings. Yeah. It's full. People want to support it. And then, of course, in Wokistan, Melbourne, there was a protest at Crown. They tried to pull the movie from Crown, and then good on Pauline. She dug her heels in and she said, no, I'm not backing down. You guys will be showing this movie. We're rocking up one way or another. And they eventually put it back on screen. And then there was just people there with, like, I kid you not, kazoos, just like the most dweebiest, dorky looking people, just like making noise in Crown Casino to stop people from going to the One Nation thing. And what this is doing is it's brilliant in a couple of ways, because the more these protesters carry on the way they do, the more it makes your average person just go, I don't want to be on that team, man. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not one of them.
Us all look bad. I don't want to be on that team, and so it's actually making more and more people want to go see the movie. But contrast that, I think I sent this to you. Melania Trump has a documentary out, and it's covering her in the lead up to the 2024 or 2025 inauguration. And as always, the leftist pundits are trying to say that no one went to, like, they went to one obscure cinema and looked for tickets, and there was only one person that had bought the ticket. There was no context for when that ticket was or which cinema, just that no one wanted tickets. And yet someone else has jumped online and you couldn't get tickets to it. It was booked out the day before, as all movies are. People don't typically book their movie tickets 2 weeks in advance. They tend to book it within 24 hours, right? But again, it just shows you in America, it's been a box office smash. They can't stand it. They can't stand that there's people outside the echo chamber, outside the woke bubble, doing things that are generating income in industries that they have had under their control for so long.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. The silver screen is supposed to belong to them. I'm not sure how well Melania is doing, to be honest. But one of the good things about the movie industry is that it's one of the most highly scrutinized and highly reported industries. So there's every week there's a report that comes out, industry report, saying how many screens ran which movies and how many tickets sold and blah, blah, blah. It's quite an incredible industry in that regard. And a lot of that information does leak out publicly, and sooner or later we'll have the official numbers. So we will know for sure one way or the other. But what's also really interesting is that I don't think, there were people with kazoos showing up, to protest, let's say, a Martin Luther King movie or, that sort of thing. It's this funny sort of difference in the behavior where if you or I go, I don't want to see that. So I've got no interest in seeing Melania, just for example. My wife almost certainly will make me watch it probably when it comes out on Netflix or something, because she'll just want to see the fashion or something. I don't know. And I will sit there and I will nod and I will smile and I will pretend to like it. But I've no interest in seeing that movie. But there is no planet, there is no scenario in any of all of the multiverses where I show up with a kazoo to try and disturb the people that do want to go and watch a movie, no matter how disinterested I may be or how much I may dislike it. I didn't do that when Jolly Well An Inconvenient Truth came on. I'm not going to do it for any, like, there is something fundamentally different about the worldview, about the mindset of the person who says, you know, it's like that Simpsons character, I'm helping, with a kazoo in their mouth and just like, no, get over yourself.
Yeah. Oh, it's embarrassing. And, you know, I'm a big supporter of bringing back shame and actually offending people. Like, you know, you need to harden people up. But anyway, I'm going to play this clip for you from Holly. So she's on a show called Free Speech Nation. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I never really guessed it because during COVID was the big like tester to see how like the retard meter. And Australia was quite high on that, and that was quite shocking.
Sorry for using that word, but that's okay. But yeah, it's okay. You use that word, yeah. I think some people, unfortunately, might be offended.
Hey, are we not in Free Speech Nation over here?
Free Speech Nation. You're right. You've got me there. You've got me there with Free Speech Nation. Apart from that one word.
So you can't say the word retard on a show called Free Speech Nation. Like,
if that's not 1984, what is?
This is, so I don't know anything about that show. I have zero context for it.
Neither.
But you know, I think it's a bit rich of you to call yourself Free Speech Nation and then be there policing someone's speech.
And it's not like she was aggressive with it. She was using it as a descriptive. And fine, people might want to get the knickers in or not. That's fine. They can be retards if they want. But she wasn't using it as this aggressive kind of she wasn't trying to solicit a reaction. She was literally just using it as a descriptive. This is one of the reasons. So people get upset with me when I swear, and particularly Christians get upset with me when I swear, because I have a very shallow understanding of the scriptural instruction not to swear. And honestly, if you actually understand the English language and the translation, it's like it has nothing to do with that. But anyway, that's another story. But they get upset with me because I'll use a word that has been described to them and they have been trained to believe is a bad word. The thing is, we use bad words all the time. Smelly, something smelly. It's not a compliment. I'm saying something mean and nasty about that thing. But it's a description, and it's a valid description. And once enough of us know what that word is describing, it becomes a useful part of our dialogue. Now, some words some situations we will use one word because it carries more meaning. We could say the same thing a slower way, but we say it the faster way. And words like retard, words like asshole, these have known meanings. People understand when you describe somebody that way. I've just shortcut the sentence. It's a mimetic shortcut, and people get so upset and like, oh no, that's a bad word. Yes, it is. I'm describing a bad thing. Now, would you like me to use a much more verbose set of also bad words so that you come to understand the exact same concept in your brain, or will you just allow me to use the one word that encapsulates the whole thing in a couple of syllables? It's really frustrating. And then people get so hung up on the use of that bad word that they'll miss the entire meaning of what the actual debate was. They get, sorry, you go.
The comments on your posts, whenever I accidentally swear, people just like come for me. And it's infuriating. If words are the things that trip you up, you're going to have a tough life, man. Like we all communicate differently. And I think something that people misunderstand about the podcast world, because prior to maybe like the last 3 years, there hasn't been a whole lot of Australian political podcasts. Not saying that they didn't exist, more so that they're becoming more mainstream, more and more people are tuning in. We know that
there's certainly a lot more of them.
There is, and independent media is certainly the new media, if you will. And so I think there's a lot of people who are used to traditional media and the way that things are done and the professionalism of it and the showiness of it. And they're expecting the exact same thing of the independent media pundits. But, you know, for anyone in the audience or anyone that sees this outside of the, 994 people watching, when it comes to podcasting, it's not about Topher and I don't have a script. We don't sit down and go, all right, you're going to say this and I'll say this. And neither of us are pre-thinking prior to sitting on the show. We're literally just talking as if you would be if you were sitting on the couch with a mate, if you're at a coffee shop with a mate, if you're at the table with your family. This is a messy conversation. It's not about me sitting here going, what articulate, eloquent sentence can I say to make me sound more sophisticated and more intelligent on this podcast, so that when people see a 10-minute clip of it out of a 3-hour show, I sound way more worldly and more important. Like, that's not a podcast. A podcast is messy. We're going to misspeak. We're going to swear. We're going to go off on tangents. We're going to come back again, because that's how real people talk. That is why podcasts work. That's why people like them. That's why people find them refreshing. That's why people like Joe Rogan have amassed such a significant audience. It's because it's exactly how you speak in everyday life. People are exhausted by the pomp and ceremony of mainstream media and the way that they position things and the way that they go into the segment, having already positioned the story in a way that's going to elicit a response. And this podcast, neither of us are trying to convince you either way. We're just nutting it out. And isn't that what's missing? Isn't that what's vital for where we're going?
All right. So it appears that the Cory Bernardi rumor is correct. It is Cory Bernardi who has been lured across to One Nation. To be honest, I think they've probably over-egged the sauce a little bit here. I don't think he's that big of a coup. He's a nice guy. I've met him. Lovely guy. I'm not saying something bad about him, but he was in the Liberal Party 15 years ago, something like that. Yeah. He left. He started the Australian. Was he the Australian Conservatives? Cory Bernardi's Australian Conservatives might have been something like that. He was involved with the Family First Party for a while. He moved through a couple of different situations. Never managed to find sort of a home, never managed to get reelected, if I'm recalling correctly. Very, very decent bloke. He will bring some support. Probably the biggest. Oh, actually, see, this is the real-time thing that Carly was just talking about. He's from South Australia. Can you fact check me on that? Can you just double check where he was a senator, Cory Bernardi? Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's South Australia. South Australia is a weirdly important state in federal elections. It's basically impossible. It is South. Okay, that's more significant. It's basically impossible to get elected in Australia to federal government without the support of South Australia. It might have happened a couple of times, maybe in history, but it'd be the exception, not the rule. That's one of the reasons why we spent so much money propping up the car industry, was for the Mitsubishi factory in South Australia. We spent so much money on shipbuilding to keep the shipyards in was it Waiya? Anyway, wherever it is in South Australia, to keep them busy propping up those jobs. It's why the entire Murray-Darling Basin plan was written around looking after the lower lakes in where Goolwa is, just inside South Australia. If you want to win a federal election, you have to win South Australia. So now that I'm stopping and thinking about it, Cory Bernardi, he won't move the needle federally, but he might move the needle in South Australia. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. So okay. That's perhaps a little more interesting. I was kind of hoping it was going to be like an Alex Antic, like a current member, something a bit more of a high profile.
They reckon he will tomorrow.
That would be juicy. I would love that. And then I would love for the Nationals to just throw their lot in. It won't happen, but I would love for the Nationals to do it. So David Littleproud just had a leadership challenge today. He was challenged by a lower house member whose name escapes me. And basically the premise of the challenge was that this lower house member believed that they should go back to being in coalition with the Liberal Party because it was just suicide to not be. And he's probably not wrong in the short term, but I think it's absolute suicide in the long term for them to be attached. So, it's a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm very pleased to say not a single other person supported that leadership challenge. And here I find myself in the very uncomfortable position of actually kind of rooting for David Littleproud. Very weird. I don't like the guy. I think he's done a lot of dirty things over the years. I despise what he did when he was the water minister, what he did to irrigators in the Murray-Darling Basin. During that time, none of that changes. All of that remains. But also in this moment in time, the Nationals are much better off in his hands than they would be in this other guy's. So he's survived that leadership challenge. He's got the unanimous support of all of the Nationals, which unfortunately makes it less likely that someone like a Matt Canavan is going to go across to One Nation. I would have liked to have seen a bit of that, but probably not going to happen with the Nationals as they are. But then again, 2 years is a long time in politics, so we may see that happen. Can I segue into this? Jacinta Bryce would be a good one as well. Would be good to see her jump across. Okay, so this is the latest polling. The numbers are slightly disingenuous because what they've done here, so if you look up at the Labor, One Nation, Coalition, Greens, Other, under the primary vote, the top left there, it says Coalition is on 19%. That's actually not true. They're on 15%. What they've done is they've rolled in the 4% that the Queensland LNP, because that's actually technically a separate party, are expected to get. But of course, that's 4% of the state vote. So it doesn't quite translate to 19%. So they're actually 19% minus. They're below that. They're not even 1 in 5 Australians voting for the Liberal Party or the Coalition. One Nation are getting more than 1 in 4.
Yeah.
Labor are getting 1 in 3. So it's kind of a nice state. You kind of get, okay, and then the Greens are getting about 1 in 10. So Labor are 1 in 3, One Nation are 1 in 4, Coalition 1 in 5, Greens 1 in 10. Right, that's roughly how it's kind of panning out at the moment. Now, what's really interesting to me, well, number one, obviously, One Nation is continuing to climb. This is yet another poll that's confirming not only are they up there, but actually they're climbing, also confirming that the Coalition are sinking like a stone. We already knew that, but it's just another data point to say, yes, this is real. That wasn't a blip. It wasn't a doctored result. That's real. But I want to look at the demographic breakdown here. So if you go down below where we just were, you look at primary vote by generation as a percentage. You got Gen Z, Millennials, Gen X, Baby Boomers. We talk about generations all the time, Carly. And you'll notice, obviously, there's a very, very sharp decline in One Nation voting as you get younger. What's really interesting to me is that Labor stays almost exactly the same all the way through. That's quite remarkable. Also, look at what happens to the Greens, right? They go down to basically nothing as you get to the older generation. Now, here's the thing, with the mistake that people make when they look at this is they say, aha, as those Gen Zers grow up, the Liberal Party will get destroyed and the Greens will come on strong, right? Because they think that the Gen Z voting pattern is generational and will stay with them as they age. It's not. It's age-based. Now, I touched on this a couple of weeks ago, so apologies to people that have heard this already, but I think it's worth mentioning again because we're going to see a lot more data like this, and we need to know how to interpret it. Socialism is essential in families. Socialism works in families, from each according to their ability to each according to their need. That speaks of parents providing for their children. Every single child is a socialist. Every single one. You were when you were a kid. I was when I was a kid. Our sense of fairness, our sense of wanting something and not caring about the fact that we haven't earned it, our sense of wanting our needs to be met, instant gratification, don't make me wait. All of that is a child's mind. The thing is, most people grow out of that.
Yeah.
What you're looking at there across those demographics is not locked into those demographics. Gen Xers would not have voted like that had they been able to vote at 16. Their demographic, their makeup, how they would have voted would have been, radically different to that. So people look at this and they make the assumption, and Kos Samaras does this, people who really ought to know better, they do this, they look at these results and they go, give it time. No, life is absolutely bitch slapping younger generations around the side of the head right now. If anything, they're going to grow up faster. They're going to grow out of that childishness faster than what Gen X did, than what millennials have, because life is being much less tolerant now. There's so much madness out there. If you go down that rabbit hole, you get hurt. You get hurt real bad, real fast. We've talked about that with the youngest generations now, where they're actually turning out more conservative than their grandparents. So I actually expect, as this graph matures as time passes and another generation comes on the top of it in this case, but at the youngest end of it, actually those numbers are already going to start to look better than the Gen Z numbers do. I think Gen Z is the peak of the madness. Yeah. And even if I'm wrong about that, we know as millennials and Gen Z age, those numbers are going to shift. So I'm really, really encouraged by what I'm seeing here.
I'm encouraged by that too. And I mean, I know you obviously pay attention to policy and politics with a fixed focus on that. I look more at culture, and I'm seeing it's not obvious yet. And it's sort of like only for those who are fixated on it like I am. The shift is there's a question now. Before it was a definitive statement. It was all about wokeism, right? Exclamation mark. Now it's kind of like there's a comma, because the significance of this is they have been, and for anyone who hasn't heard me say this 1,000 times, Gen Z have been indoctrinated. I'm really hard on them because I feel like they need you to be hard on them. The reason being they haven't been challenged. They've never had to be challenged for their ideas because they've been fed them, right? Climate change, the end of the world, you'll never own a house, you're a colonizer, your skin color makes you evil, all this shit.
Don't have babies.
Don't have babies, right? Feminism's the only way. Smash the patriarchy. That's all they know. And the reason I say this, I mentioned before a podcast called Shameless. Now, again, significant podcast for Gen Z women. And I mean massive influence. The two girls who started it are very wealthy now. And one of them's had a baby. One of them got married and had a baby. And the reason I know this shift is there is she didn't flat out say it, but she left a question mark. And that was, I am starting to understand why some parents are concerned about this trans ideology. That was the comment. That was it. Now, you got to remember, these are people like, trans rights are human rights. And if a 4-year-old knows that they're a boy and they're a girl, they should be able to take hormone blockers and avoid puberty, even if it makes them barren. That was the hill they were on 4 years ago. Now, obviously, Shameless, when I first became aware of it, was like around the pandemic. And I stopped well and truly during the pandemic as well because of how woke they were. But what I'm trying to illustrate here is peak woke has also passed, but also these women have grown up. In 2020, they would have been early 20s, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
They're now getting close to their 30s. One of them's married. One of them has a child. That child's still an infant, by the way. I think it's under 1 year old. What's going to happen when that child is at school or they have the second one and then the other one has a kid? And all of a sudden, they're looking at different things that they weren't focused on before. So yes, the age thing is there, but it's also all of this stuff that they've been swallowing their entire adolescence is now not coming to fruition. The whole climate change thing, the whole like polar bears will be dead by 2020. The polar caps will be melted. Like, the Maldives won't exist anymore. This is all the rhetoric that they were listening to in high school. And it hasn't come to fruition. And yet they're still beating the drum. They've got to keep reinventing climate change. I mean, if you go back as far as like the 50s and the 60s and you see all of the fear mongering back then, it's every decade, they're just going to come up with a new way to resell climate change.
The 40s to the 70s, they were selling global cooling, or more the 70s, they were selling global cooling because there was a sharp cooling trend that started in the 40s and went through to the 70s.
Wasn't it also peak oil time as well? Like peak oil was meant to be
peak oil was a bit later, 76, 78, somewhere there was something like that, was the oil crisis, and that was around the peak oil. Paul Ehrlich came out with the population bomb. When was that? The 60s. It was an era where Malthusian limits to growth, the Club of Rome and limits to growth came out a little bit after that. Like there was this whole sort of groundswell of Malthusian thinking, and for those that don't live and breathe this stuff every day, scarcity. Malthus believed that we were going to run out of resources. There's going to be a starvation event, and basically we have to kill a bunch of people in advance so they don't die later from starvation. And that kind of thinking is referred to as Malthusian. It's alive and well today. And ultimately that is at the heart of the anti-human. There's Bigfoot lurking around behind Carl's. I refer to modern environmentalism as an anti-human movement. It's not actually pro-environment anymore. It's about hurting humans and hurting human progress and hurting human comfort, making humans feel less at home on this planet. And they've conned themselves with a wrong zero-sum game. They believe that in order for the environment to benefit, humans have to suffer, which means that if humans are benefiting, then the environment must be suffering. It doesn't matter if we can measure that suffering or not. It doesn't matter whether we can see it. If humans are better off as a result of anything, then it must mean that it's come at the expense of the environment. And so what's the easiest way to be an environmentalist in that case? Is it to get out there and measure environmental outcomes and make strategies that can give you results that you can observe and report back on to show that the environment is better off? That's really hard. Or you can just hurt humans. You can just make human progress slow down. You can hurt the free market. You can regulate. You can make rules that pen people in, make the cost of living so expensive that they have to move into urban centers and no one can afford to live out in the bush anymore. Lock up the bush so that bush users, four-wheel drivers, bush climbers, whatever, can't access it anymore. Hurt humans as much as possible. And then we can go to sleep at night knowing that we must have helped the environment. I can't tell you where. I can't measure it. I don't know where it is or how much of it or what it looks like, but I'm sure I've done it. And so environmentalism has become an anti-human movement. And it is predicated essentially on this Malthusian limits to growth kind of thinking that says, well, there's only finite resources. We're going to run out. And every time you gain, someone else loses. And that's the whole underpinning of the entire anti-human movement.
Can I segue over or tangent, if you will? We haven't tangented for 2 weeks.
We haven't tangented in a couple of weeks, I feel like. Yeah.
Is it proximity? Is that when we tangent? Is it because I'm on
me? Just shut up, woman. me. Tangent time, tangent time, tangent time, tangent time, tangent time.
The dear commenter who had the audacity to suggest that we get rid of that song, I hope she's gone.
Never.
We need silliness. This isn't silly, but I'm writing something about this in my head at the moment. I'm sort of still working this all out. As you guys know, I'm traveling, and I've been in Japan 10 years ago. That was the last time I was here. And it was a very different country in many ways, but in many ways it's still the same. And what is different is this is the first time I have truly been confronted with over-tourism. I've heard this conversation before. I've seen it on social media before. Now that I see it with my own eyes, I actually am a little bit confronted by it. And I wanted to unpack this with you. I am someone who lives for traveling. If I could just travel the rest of my life, that is what I would do. This is something that's important to me. And I love going to new countries. I love just immersing myself in the culture, eating the local food, going off the beaten track, obviously with a bit of safety. I am a woman after all. But for the most part, I enjoy going and seeing it as it is. I really, really hate it when it starts to cater to the tourism. Sure. Now, the most confronting place for this was Kyoto. And I did you spend any time in Kyoto when you were here? Did you come here?
We only went to the new part of Kyoto. We didn't go to the historic part.
Okay, that truly took my breath away in a bad way. So we went to the Golden Pavilion. We went up to the shrine, and then we went through Gion, which is like the old historic district. It was. Yeah. I'm not joking. I felt like I was on a subway. It was that packed. The streets outside, like selfie sticks, people with cameras everywhere. And then a street that I remember, because obviously I document my travels. So I remember where I was. I remember what cafe I went to and things like that. And I said to G, I was like, oh, there's a really good coffee shop around the corner, if memory serves me correctly. And it was there. The line to it was like 30 meters long, right? Like these people were lining up for a coffee that I just walked in and got 10 years ago because it's now trendy because of TikTok. And then all of the main street, like the facades are all these beautiful old buildings that now sell Chinese tourist junk. And it's just that. But the thing that floored me, this wasn't there 10 years ago, or if it was, it certainly wasn't as prevalent as it is now. You can rent kimonos, and they're polyester ones. They're not real silk kimonos, but, made for tourists. You can dress up as a geisha and go and walk around Kyoto in your outfit. And I kid you not, the amount of Westerners who were doing that, and I'm sitting there going, what is happening? Now, Japan's not like this. This is a new thing, and it was really confronting to see what should be selling beautiful Japanese food and Japanese-made home souvenirs and showing you Kyoto as it was is now like, hey, how do we commercialize this and make it for tourists and now cater for tourists? Now, obviously, this is a massive thing, a bone of contention in the recent Japanese elections. They're done with the over-tourism, and they've actually just overhauled things. So for those who don't know, a very conservative woman who happens to be a drummer, like a heavy metal drummer. I love that about her. What a badass thing. she's come in and she's gone, zero tolerance for the migrants and also
when you say come in, what you mean is she's actually now their prime minister.
Yes. Sorry. She won the election.
Yeah.
And so what she's also doing is making it that everyone has to rerun. So right now, all around Tokyo, Kyoto, and where we've been, there's people with what they have is like a van, and they stand on top of the van with a megaphone, and they're spruiking to people walking past. Like that's how they campaign in Japan. I'll play some on Wednesday. I've got some footage, and it's fascinating how different countries do their elections. But so for over-tourism, what they're suggesting, what they're bringing in is a tourist tax, and it's tripling. So for those who don't know, when you go to a hotel in Tokyo, you check in and you pay the tax at the hotel. It's calculated on your per night stay and all that sort of stuff. They're tripling that. And what you can do at the moment is go into a shop, give them your passport, and they'll refund you the tax. They're stopping that. This is how they're trying to curb that, because at the moment, like you'll go into a shop and the line's out the door because people are trying to claim the tax back. And what I can't help but think about, and this is where I don't know this yet, I've just started looking into this. Countries that are becoming more and more dependent on tourism used to be massive producers of other things. So back when I lived in Japan with my family, they were significant in the electronics game, right? Like back when Sony was in their heyday.
Oh, yeah. Panasonic and Sony, all that. Yeah, absolutely.
Anything that was made in Japan was like the top of the range TV or the top of the range music player. Now Japan's lost all of that to China. And, as far as primary industries, I don't know what Japan's doing other than like maybe fishing and, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know enough about it. And then you look at places like Australia. Our GDP relies on tourists and students coming over and flooding our universities. And then you look at places in Spain and Portugal and countries like that. Tourism, migration. Is this because I don't know the answer. I'm just asking the question. Through globalization and outsourcing all of our primary production to China and to third world countries, it's left a significant hole, and that needs to be filled with something. So now we are allowing this level of insane tourism coming, and then we're changing those beautiful heritage places to cater to the tourism, thus ruining the culture of those local areas. I don't know, but that's what it looks like.
All right, so let me hit you with some uncomfortable information. I just double-checked it now to make sure I was actually remembering correctly, but I looked this up before I went to Japan. So between 75 and 80% of Japanese tourism by revenue is domestic. So it's people traveling, people who live in Japan traveling to other parts of Japan, which actually means, because the average domestic tourist spends less than the average international tourist, the actual number of bodies is something like 10 or more domestic tourists for every foreign tourist in Japan. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, those foreign tourists are going to concentrate into specific areas. So I'm not saying that that's going to be uniform everywhere. Foreign tourists are going to want to go to certain things, and you're going to find a higher concentration of them there. But the reality is, if you were to remove foreign tourism from Japan, those crowds would have only gone down moderately. It'd make a difference, but it'd be only moderately. And this is a point that I've made repeatedly about Australia as well. We overemphasize the significance of the difference that it would make. When there is a fundamental problem and immigration is making that problem worse, which it is in Australia, cost of housing, cost of living, whole bunch of things. Yes, immigration is making these things worse. Dealing with the immigration, but not dealing with the underlying problem, or not even recognizing what the underlying problem is going to leave you with a very unsatisfactory result. And all the effort that you put into dealing with the immigration problem, or so you thought, is energy that could have been spent dealing with the real problem. And this is a great little illustration of that, to say, well, you notice the international tourists because that's kind of what your brain was looking for, was expecting. And yeah, they're going to stand out a bit more. And yes, they're going to be spending more money. They're going to be paying for the naff kimonos that all the Japanese people roll their eyes and go, really? You spent how much on that? Seriously? Are you an idiot? Yeah, probably. They're international tourists. They go and splash money. That's what they do. The same thing. We live in a place and we notice the immigrants that have arrived. We notice, that shop used to be run by an Italian man. Now it's run by an Indian. Those damn immigrants, forgetting that the Italian man was a damned immigrant in his day too. And so we kind of filter things and we see them through those lenses, and we miss the underlying problem. if crowding is a problem, I would suggest that everyone just needs to jack their prices up. That's how you deal with crowding. Create and I'm not saying through taxes. I mean, just everyone should just start profit gouging. If you've got a line 30 meters out the front for 8 hours a day, jack your prices up. That's what that means. So that would be my capitalist solution to the problem. But deal with the underlying problem, deal with the overdemand or the undersupply or the overregulation or whatever the actual underlying problem is. Because case in point, you could eliminate every single foreign tourist. The Japanese can be there as much as they want, going, oh, these crowds, these foreign effing tourists, let's get them out of our country. Every single foreign tourist gone.
I'm going to look into this more. 10%. I'm going to look into this more because I don't know. And I'm curious. Like, I remember having this exact same experience like 20 years ago when I went to Egypt. And I'd been dreaming of doing that my entire life and getting there, pardon me, and being punched in the face with disappointment. Like I wanted to see the pyramids more than anything in my life. And when I finally got there, I was like, oh. Mm-hmm. And because it wasn't that the pyramids weren't amazing, it's because the chaos around it ruined it. So but 20 years ago, it was KFC and Macca's was like just there.
Yeah.
And then all the all the different people trying to sell you shit. They're trying to get, what they do is they throw you up on a camel and then they make you pay to get down, like shit like that, right? All the tourist traps. And so what should have been like an awe-inspiring experience and just something where you sit there and you take in all the ancient monuments gets ruined. And so the parts of Egypt that I remember and I love the most were the more remote stuff. Like I think I've told the story of being in the Western Desert. That's my standout memory from Egypt. Same here with Japan. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that, again, I don't know. I'm just trying to unpack this as I'm here. Social media and the way we overhype things. And I can't help but feel like whilst I've been limited with my ability to show up online in recent days, the further I've been removed from it, the more I realize that all of this noise, all this nonsense isn't real anyway. I mean, we know that, but when you actually physically do it and you subtract yourself, you realize that, for example, there's a shop in Tokyo that sells, I kid you not, it's a piece of bread, deep fried. They cut it open and they shove cream in it. That's it. That's all it is. And it has been so hyped on Instagram and TikTok that you cannot get to it. The lines are that long. And there'll be people who are spending money to be in Japan who will wait in that line 4 hours to get deep fried bread with cream. You could make it at home. And I can't help but think to myself, like, you and I have talked about agency in this podcast. A lot of this comes down to just because someone said it's good doesn't mean that it is. And why do we allow ourselves to be carried away with that? It's the same with politics. We'll sit here and go, oh my God, the Epstein files, have you seen it? It's terrible. I didn't even know much about it. And I mean, the recent stuff until I logged on and spoke to Topher today. So I think our proximity to stuff and our engagement with it also makes things seem worse than they are. I don't know.
All right. So everyone ignore what Carly just said, because if you take that to its logical conclusion, you'll stop listening to the ODDCAST. So just ignore all of that. But no, you're not wrong. But I will also say that disappointment can only be measured in terms of expectations. If you have no expectation, you can't be disappointed. If your expectations are low, you're much less likely to be disappointed. It's when your expectations are high that disappointment is most likely. And so a big part of the issue is Instagram gives us completely unrealistic expectations. 20 years ago, Instagram wasn't what gave you expectations about Egypt. It was the Lonely Planet books, and it was a documentary that you saw, and it was, a story that you heard, and a book that you read when you were a kid. And we romanticize the world, the grass is greener thing. This is a psychological thing. We romanticize everything that is beyond our reach and beyond our grasp. One, because most of us are somewhat unhappy with our current circumstance, and we want to believe there's something better out there, that we'll find something that's going to make us happier. Two, because we're not close enough to see it warts and all. I can see my own life warts and all, right? I don't want to move this camera around because you'll see, just empty cups of Barocca that I didn't quite finish this morning, and some cigar ash and other bits and bobs, right? But if for as long as I keep you focused here, it all looks great, right? I mean, apart from this, but everything else looks really good. And we do the same thing where we romanticize what's beyond our reach, and then when we get to it, and we see the warts and all, we've set ourselves up for disappointment. We're going to be disappointed. This is one of the reasons why it's so, I think it's really important to have realistic conversations about things like relationships around your kids and in front of your kids and young people, so that, we're all going to romanticize our future relationships because we all think that we're different and we're awesome, and the person that we found is different and awesome. And with the exception of you and G, that doesn't work out that way for the rest of us. Okay. You guys are just, you're the exceptions. You got the fairy tale. Well done, you. For the rest of us who live in the real world, we discovered that our husband or wife has warts. We discovered that our kids aren't the angels that we were sure they were going to be, that we actually, as parents, we're kind of a lot more like our parents than we want to admit that we were going to be. Real life does that to us. Travel does that to us. It all does that to us. And I think one of the most important things, this is one of the reasons why wokeness has thrived, is because we've filled our kids' heads with completely unrealistic, romanticized expectations about what their life could be. And then the minute they fell short, instead of telling them, hey, you didn't try hard enough, you weren't good enough, you need to go back and think about it and learn and do better, we told them, well, that's not your fault. Someone else is holding you back. And so now they've got two things. They've got this dream of this utopia that we told them existed, and they've got this reality that sucks, and they're being told it's somebody else's fault. No wonder they lash out. Right? We filled their head with crap. So realistic expectations in all areas of life are a really healthy, really useful thing, because they protect you from that disappointment later. But they also allow you just to engage and to make so much more progress in life. When you just engage with it realistically, you're going to get a lot further. What is it? The verse in Proverbs that says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. In other words, if you keep being disappointed, you get brokenhearted, you get heart sick. And we do that to kids when we give them unrealistic expectations. No wonder we've got a generation of heartbroken kids who think that they should have had X, Y, and Z, and now their life is terrible. We're the ones who filled their heads with those unrealistic expectations to start with.
Well, do you remember, this is a cliche from 20 years ago, or, up until social media, kids used to dream of being firemen or policemen or, Bob the Builder and stuff like that. Now it's like, I want to be a tech CEO, or I want to be a YouTube streamer. I want to be a kick streamer, or things that I'm not privy to.
When I grow up, I want to have an OnlyFans.
Yeah, don't.
I
think that phase is dying. I do think that's dying. Yeah, no, look, as much as I come across really cynical on this podcast, I am actually quite optimistic, because I'll say explosive things on social media just to elicit reaction. And the reaction I get back often is, I'm like, oh, thank God. Okay, cool. Just checking. I think a lot of that stuff it got hyped. I'll give you another tangent, because we haven't tangented for a while. I'll give you another tangent. Ready?
Sure. I'm not doing the song again.
Oh, surely I get an encore.
How much are you going to pay me?
Nothing.
What's this worth?
I'm just going to force you. There's 1,100 people watching.
Wow. One day this song is going to be in the charts higher than your song.
If you keep doing this, I'm going to forget what I was going to say. So just play the song.
I'm going to sing it in like a minor key. Tangent time, tangent time. Tangent time, tangent time, tangent time. I can't even bring myself to be sad. Whoa, Carly. Wow.
What was I going to talk about?
Please tell me you've forgotten. Please tell me you've forgotten.
No. It'll come back. I was talking about it, thinking about it.
That's what you said about your dad. I'm kidding.
That's weird. I know, it's just gone. It'll come. This is what happens. You distract me, and then my thoughts go.
My plan is working.
I'll interrupt you in a minute. No, I was looking at trends, right? OnlyFans and things like that. Oh, that's where I was going.
What a shame.
So the whole OnlyFans thing exploded because people thought that they could make crazy wealth, right? And social media of the 2015 to the 2023 was all the hustle culture, right? Lamborghinis, crypto millionaires, everyone was like the 4-day work week, or whatever it was. What was Tim Ferriss's book? A 4-hour work week or something like that.
Yeah, the 4-hour work week. Yeah.
All that stuff, like do little and make billions and travel the world and be a nomad. Like that was the culture. And it's made people have, again, like you said it before, unrealistic expectations that the less you work, the more you'll create just by, like, I don't know, osmosis, who knows? And the reality of that is really coming home to people. They're realizing that, oh, you know, if I go on OnlyFans just because one person made untold millions off it, doesn't mean I'm going to make that. And a lot of that came to do with the consumption.
Yes, this is live.
This is live.
Donovan, this is live, yes.
This is live. And this is why it's a train wreck. No. But a lot of that was around people wanted to accumulate wealth because prior to social media, it was elusive. You didn't see people with Birkin bags walking down the street with a pair of jeans on. These things, access to Bugattis was not something that regular people got. And so the egalitarians among us were like, well, we should all get access to that. So we became entrepreneurial and then blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting is in Japan, it feels like on every street corner, there is a vintage reseller of designer goods. And I know that designer goods do well in Asian markets. And I'm talking the lordy stuff, right? Like the big logos everywhere, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. The vulgaris.
It is really vulgar. And it's not fakes. In Japan, fakes are very no-no. So this is all real stuff. But I'm like, and so every shopping center that we've walked into or gone to has the same shops. It's like Louis Vuitton's there, and then Chanel's over there, and then whatever designer shop's over there. And then amongst the actual shops are the resellers. And they're full. There's people in all of these shops, and they just look like regular Joes. And I think what's happened is people have gotten access to this lifestyle, this desire to be seen as something that you're not, because, you can be it too, honey. You can be whatever you want to be.
That's right.
If you need 20 Birkins, you can have 20 Birkins. I mean, it's outrageous what they cost, but hey, so long as you have it, you're important.
That's right.
What's crazy now is you see people wearing all of this stuff and everyone has the same stuff. And it's sort of like, where is there to go out of this? And I think a lot of it comes down to people were promised that you get the crypto millions and you do the OnlyFans and you get this life at the end. Then what? Where do you go once you have all the designer goods and you have the Bugatti and what next? There's still that same emptiness that you had when you were poor is still there when because that's not the journey, right? And like we can say this, it sounds really obvious, but for the average person who's always been looking up at people who have more, and these are the socialists I'm talking about, they look at people who have more and go, I deserve some of that. Why won't you give it to me? Well, you're kind of getting a taste of it because luxury on one end has now been extended to the everyday person. If you really want a Louis Vuitton bag, and you can go and buy one, they're expensive, but $4,000 will get you something, and then you're part of the
If you
club.
choose to sacrifice, most people could get there if they decided to make that the most important thing. Most people could get there sooner or later.
But prior to that, it was gate kept, and that's where I'm going with this. As I said before, the egalitarians wanted everyone to have access. We should all be able to have a step into this world, and with that, you've had people just like throw themselves in there and engorge themselves. And then what? Everyone's in the same thing again. The same thing that you were trying to get away from over there is over here now. And I think that is where people are starting to get really disappointed. You've got the access. You can travel everywhere. And you made this point before, and it really kind of hit me once I was here. We live better now than anyone ever in history. And yet people are complaining more. Oh, it's so unfair. Says you who has heating and cooling in your house. Says you who actually has a floor in your house. Says you who not only has one pair of shoes, you have about 60. If you really want another pair, you can go down Kmart, spend $8 and get another 2 pairs. Says you who has a smartphone in your hand. Says you who has a car. And I think our expectation.
Who was the comedian? Who was the comedian? No. I think it might have been Norm Macdonald did a set titled "Everything's Amazing and Nobody's Happy." And he talks about how he passengered on a plane and this announcement comes on saying, oh, we're very sorry, the in-flight Wi-Fi is not working. in this flight, and the person next to him was like, "Oh, this sucks," and made a big carry on about it. And he sat there and went, "I didn't know planes could have Wi-Fi. It's the first time I've heard of Wi-Fi on a plane." And he's just watching this person next to him have a meltdown over the fact that the Wi-Fi wasn't working. And he's thinking, like, you're in an aluminium sausage screaming through the sky at 600 miles an hour in air-conditioned comfort with hot food and cold drinks. Like what the hell, man? Everything's amazing and nobody's happy. He does it obviously a lot better than that. But yeah, it's exactly the same point.
G actually said that to me on the Shinkansen. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was getting really mad because the Wi-Fi has been so spotty and I'm trying to do work and I literally can't, right? I'm sitting there, I'm like, ah. And he's like, are you really complaining? You're on a freaking train going 300 kilometers an hour and we're going to be in Tokyo in like 2 hours and you're whinging because the Wi-Fi doesn't work. And I was like,
yeah, fair. All right. We need to wind this baby up, but I just want to quickly touch on a couple of comments here. Firstly, Duncan, I own a microbrewery. That's definitely vodka in the soda bottle. You know what? I've just had $1 billion idea. This is trademarked, patented, registered, whatever, all of the things. Has anyone ever tried manufacturing sparkling vodka? Oh, yeah. You heard it here first. Sparkling vodka. Now, it would mean that you would have to drink the entire bottle because otherwise it'll go flat. But for most of us, that's a challenge that we're up for. I think you imagine because you like vodka and orange, you put like pineapple juice and vodka, right? It's a classic teenager pre-drink. Imagine it was sparkling vodka and pineapple juice. Like, come on.
A classic teenager drink is stealing liquor from your parents' cabinet. And if not, you got a goon bag and some orange juice. I don't know what vodka you were drinking at 15. That shit's expensive.
No, probably the stuff from my dad's cabinet. No, he wasn't a drinker.
Can I finish on a funny?
One more thing before you get to your funny. We've been found out. There has been a big debate. 85 says you've been rolled, guys. And I watched it. It was an absolute train wreck in the comments. And I think we've been done. They figured us out that this is actually a fake show. It's not live. I don't think it's live. That's what I was saying earlier. RDL 001 has figured out the secret. One of us is live. One of us is actually pre-recorded. The technology involved in making that work is complicated, but obviously anything that doesn't quite work, we can just edit out in post. There's been a whole conversation here. There's been a whole conversation here, and yeah, it seems as though people are pretty sure that we're not live.
I'm just one of Topher's hallucinations when he's drunk. I'm not even real.
That's right.
I'm one of your AI influencer bots. Do you know what's interesting? Just quick tangent, quick side note. You know how I went on that big podcast? My episode's coming out, I think next week, which is awesome. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
But this is a very established podcast. It's the Life Uncut podcast, and their process is very professional, like way more than I expect. And so much so that they've sent me the episode that's been edited for me to improve and to make sure I'm happy with it going out. I'm like, dude, I was there. You can just put the whole thing out. I said what I said. And I think, it's just really interesting, the difference between the show. So they've edited out all of our stumbles and our, weird little things that we've misspoken and whatnot. Sure. So I'm going to sound way more intelligent on that podcast, which is very exciting.
Gosh, like a double-digit IQ?
Yeah, maybe, if you're lucky. Maybe a 9.5.
It depends on how good the editor was.
Yeah. So talking of AI slop here, I'm just going to show a picture and I will allow you to say whatever you want to say. You ready for the picture? Guys, you ready? This is going to take your breath away.
The possibilities are endless. No one is ready for this picture. I don't care what it is. No one's ready for it.
3, 2, 1. What is this picture, friends? What is this AI? I've been made out to be a Nazi.
That picture is an explanation. It explains a lot. That suddenly things have clicked for me.
Yes.
No, you know what? Sorry.
No. If this picture was posted on social media in Melbourne, I would have the police knocking at my door, would I not?
Well, it's a good thing you're only putting it up on a podcast with 1,066 people watching. Good year, by the way, 1066. 1,066 people watching. Can I just say, though, my eye is instantly drawn to the fact that it's backwards, which I happen to know what that means. But it does make me think, if you were unlucky enough for the picture to be flipped the other way, would it still look backwards? Or would it then look like it was, well, actually, I mean, technically this is forwards and the Nazis had it backwards. I don't know. Anyway, tell us what's going on.
I'm at a Buddhist temple. That's where I am. I'm in a Buddhist temple in Nagano. That's where we are at the moment. And Jacinta Allen, let's just say she would have a heart attack or a stroke, because everywhere there was this Buddhist symbol. And it's funny, right? Like, everyone knows this symbol comes from the Buddhist religion, right? Like, this is it's something that the Nazis co-opted.
Pretty common knowledge. Yeah.
Common knowledge. I'm going to take it off the screen so we can. But, you know, when you go to these temples, that symbol's everywhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, who's not freaking out about it? The Japanese. If one small symbol like that, or even a Hallie Hansen shirt, is shown in Victoria, you're thrown in the clink.
Can I just say, probably using the Japanese as your moral barometer in reference to the Nazis might not be the right barometer. Just like, because they definitely didn't have a problem with that symbol, like, I don't know, 80 years ago.
You know what, though? Do you know what's really confronting? We went to the Hiroshima Memorial down here, and Dee hadn't seen it before. And when you see the devastation of Hiroshima, you kind of feel like, well, maybe we weren't the good guys really either at times. There's no winners in war. But when you see a nuclear weapon just like obliterate an entire town and just incinerate people and leave their atomized carbon footprint on concrete, you kind of go, yeah, we did some pretty fucking shit stuff too. You know? Yeah.
The trouble with that, Carly, is that the alternative was carpet bombing and invasion. And this is a genuine trolley problem. You know, the hypothetical trolley problem, right? This is a real world trolley problem that the American planners had to think their way through. And we can say that they were wrong if we want to. And that's a valid topic of conversation. But there was no way of getting a surrender out of the Japanese without an enormous number of Japanese people dying. And I would argue that on a pure human cost calculation, those two bombs, what was the death toll in total? It was 100 and something thousand between the two cities.
125,000, I think.
Yeah,
but that doesn't include all the deaths that happened down the track. It depends what you want to include. Was it the people who died on the day or in the aftermath, or was it the people who died from all the cancer as well?
You know, when you look at the death tolls involved in bombing, you know, Japanese cities, obviously a lot of wooden buildings, etc. The fires that went on. I mean, they tried all kinds of crazy things. There were bombs. The Allies developed bombs that came down on big parachutes very slowly, and they had bats on the inside. And they were rigged so that when the bats flew out, it would ignite something, and they would literally carry like a flaming, oily rag, and they would go and roost into the eaves of the Japanese buildings and cause firestorms. War is crazy, and people get really, really creative on how to cause suffering to each other. And I think the only thing you can hope for in war is for it to come to an end.
Oh, 100%. I'm not advocating each side was better or whatever, but it's It's interesting because obviously history is written by the victors, right? So not romanticize is the wrong word, but because we were the victors or that we won, we kind of justify what we did. And I mean, the story would go the other way if the Japanese and the Nazis had won. Did you ever watch that show? That was a High Castle. It was a story about if the Nazis and the Japs won.
Yeah.
The story in the High Castle.
Man in the High Castle.
Yeah. Just food for thought. But what was interesting about that, I mean, nuclear weapons are here. The threat of nuclear is back on the horizon. Everyone's talking about Russia and Iran. It's just, I think we like to think that we wouldn't be the person to push the big red button, but you push people far enough, you coerce them enough. This is one thing. I know we're going to stop. One thing I wanted to talk about really quickly. Luigi Mangioni's federal murder charge has been thrown out, right?
Really?
So now he's got state murder charges, but the federal one's been thrown out. But that aside, I don't want to talk about Luigi Mangioni. Channel 7 posted a video talking about it, right? They put a little news segment up. And a guy wrote a comment, and I couldn't help myself but respond to him. And I was like, release him. He was justified in his actions, yada, 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 something like that. And I couldn't help myself. I was like, so that's the solution? We just straight out murder people we disagree with now? And then, I kid you not, like I got ratioed like hell. People came for me because they're like, yeah, that's generally how these things are won. You need violence. We need to take these people out. We need to, put pressure on. And
this is on Channel 7.
Channel 7. This is Australian. This happened 2 days ago. It got so bad, I actually deleted my comment because I was, for the first time, properly shook by people going, yeah, no, we want to murder these people. You understand us correctly. That's the game we're playing.
Yeah, wow.
And that's when I went, oh, well, shit.
So, Carly, can I ask you to cast your mind back to ancient history, I think about 13 or 14 minutes ago, and the words came out of your mouth, can I finish on a funny?
That wasn't funny. Yeah, no. Sorry.
I'm not trying to start nothing, but no, clearly you can't finish on a funny because you fucked it.
I was trying to be funny with the Nazi symbol, but yeah, no, because the whole Nazi symbol thing, what I was trying to show with that is like out of context. I mean, it's backwards, right? Out of context to people who are misinformed or have a very superficial knowledge of this, they will grab that. And also, one person in the comments picked up on it. I was wearing a white jacket.
Yeah.
And like that's the power of photography. That's the power of photos, right? Like without context, you couldn't actually see the temple. You can just see the temple flag, and I'm in a white jacket. No one knows that I'm in Nagano. No one knows that this is a Buddhist temple. And isn't that pretty much social media these days? Lack of context for everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nazis, nuclear weapons, and Luigi Mangioni murdering people. Thank you for watching the Oddcast. We hope you have a great week. I think is that how we're closing today? Before we close, go to topherfield.com, get yourself a ticket to the Oddcast. If you can't afford one, genuinely, the money is the barrier. Send me an email, topher@topherfield.com. I did see someone wrote a comment earlier. These comments disappear as soon as we finish the stream. So please don't rely on that. Send me an email, topher@topherfield.com. Happy to provide them if money's the issue for you. And I'll check those tomorrow. I'll check those emails tomorrow and we'll see how many we've got. And if we need extra, then we'll figure that out. But thank you for watching. Coffee.
There's now only 9 tickets left that I just had a look then.
Are you going to point to the coffee thing or are you going to leave me hanging? There. That. What? Not this again.
Am I?
You're on the, there we go. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Only 9 left. So you removed those 5, yeah? The 5 that have been bought as gifts? Yeah. Okay. So there were only 14. Now there's only 9 of those left now that those 5 are removed. Okay. Guys, less than 10 tickets left. We are 95% sold out. So do get yourself a ticket if you'd like to be there. We'll see you on Wednesday. We will be doing one this coming Wednesday. And it may be live. What did we decide with that one, Carly?
Yeah, we'll do it live like this.
Yeah. All right. Because Carly will still be in Japan. We'll do it live, coming to you on all the channels. And I guess tonight was like the Oddcast now with extra tangent time. I guess
we just made up for the ones we missed last week.
We're just giving away tangent time for free now, are we? Like just crashing its market price to 0. Like the economics of this doesn't make sense to me, Carly. We're gonna have to talk about this off air.
Are we going to finish on a high or on a funny? Something.
I don't know where my glass pipe is, so I don't know about finishing on a high.
All right. Well, just so you know, I had about 6 other windows open to show you, so I've got plenty of stuff for Wednesday. Yeah.
Hit me with a funny. Go on, make me laugh. Go on, woman. Make me laugh.
All I'm thinking about is the ramen I'm about to go eat.
All right, you go eat your ramen. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on Wednesday. Peace out.